My name is Maya Yates, and I'm 23 years old. I work from home and have a kind older brother who is 5 years my senior and currently engaged. His fiancée, Natalie, is 26 years old and has a personality that's the complete opposite of mine. While I struggle with social interactions, Natalie is lively and easily makes friends. Natalie has become quite close with her parents and frequently visits our home on her own. Today was no different. She arrived without any prior notice. When the doorbell rang, my mom instantly recognized it was Natalie and greeted her warmly. Natalie entered the living room with a cheerful "I'm back," but her expression changed to one of surprise when she saw me. "Ma, you're still at home?" she asked, skipping the greeting. I replied, "I'm working from home." Natalie immediately retorted, "Enough with that. You need to get a real job." Unable to argue, I quietly retreated to my workspace. My room is a soundproof space that I designed to pay for myself. It's my sanctuary, a place I keep locked and private. To enter, one must unlock the soundproof door and open another door inside. Once inside, I vented my frustrations aloud, feeling somewhat relieved after shouting about my irritation with Natalie's comments. At lunchtime, a small light bulb in my room began to blink, signaling that it was time for a break. I headed to the living room, where lunch was set up at the dining table. My mom invited me to sit down, and I took my usual spot, only to find Natalie across from me with a displeased look. "You get hungry even though you don't work? Don't you ever think about contributing to the household? You're just like a parasite," Natalie said harshly. I kept my head down, listening in silence as my parents joined the table and said grace. Natalie was visibly unhappy with my parents for not reprimanding me. "Your father and mother are too lenient with you, Mia. I can't feel secure about marrying into this family if things continue like this," she continued angrily. As Natalie ate lunch, her dissatisfaction grew. She expressed her concerns about what would happen if my parents could no longer care for me, suggesting that it would be unfair for her or her future children to take on that responsibility. Her assumption that I would remain a dependent shut-in upset me, and I stopped eating, mentally protesting her claims. Noticing my distress, my mother reassured Natalie, "Maya does work, you know. Don't worry," but Natalie remained unconvinced. "At 23, with your appearance, braided hair, thick glasses, and always in sweatpants, who would believe you're working?" she challenged. Frustrated, I responded softly, "Appearance has nothing to do with work." This seemed to enrage Natalie even more. "Well then, what kind of job do you do? Tell me," she demanded. Glaring at me, Natalie's intense stare left me too frightened to speak. It was my mother who intervened. "Only our family knows about Maya's job," she said. "I'm sorry, but we can't discuss it right now." Natalie, visibly frustrated, stood up and stormed out, exclaiming, "So, I'm not part of this family, is that it?" I apologized to my parents for the scene, and my father reassured me with a smile. "Don't worry about it, Mia. Just focus on doing what you love." Feeling a bit lighter, I decided to continue with dinner. During the meal, I suggested that after my brother's wedding, I would make sure Natalie learns about my job. My parents seemed to agree, and their expressions relaxed, acknowledging that it might be a good idea. After lunch, I resumed working. In the evening, as usual, I went grocery shopping with my mom while my father tended to the vegetables in our garden, watering and preparing for harvest. When we returned from the supermarket, we found Natalie in tears in the living room, with my father sitting beside her. Worried, my mom asked, "What's the matter? Why are you crying so much?" Natalie clung to my mother and sobbed uncontrollably, unable to speak. Noticing the concerned look on my father's face, I asked him what had happened. "I heard a loud noise from inside the house while I was in the garden," he said, so I rushed toward the sound. He gestured to a crowbar and hammer lying on the table. Realizing what had happened, I rushed to my room. When I reached the door, I found it severely damaged, as if someone had tried to force it open with the tools. I was paralyzed with shock and fear. My father contacted my brother, who lived in the company dormitory, and informed him of the situation. My brother promised to come over as soon as he finished work. I decided to stay in my room until he arrived, hoping to calm down. Once I was settled, I called my company and received permission to inform Natalie, who would soon become part of our family, about the nature of my job after her marriage to my brother. Seeing the room light flicker, I assumed my brother had arrived. When I left my room, I was surprised to find him already at the door. I gasped and he apologized. "Sorry to startle you," he said, not looking at me but at the damaged door. He must have been shocked by what Natalie had done. When I told him not to worry about it and that I would replace the door myself, he responded firmly, "No, that won't do. Natalie will compensate for this." Taking my hand, my brother led me to the living room where Natalie and our parents were. As soon as we entered, he addressed Natalie with a stern tone. "I had no idea you were capable of such violence." Everyone turned to look at my brother, who was rarely seen angry. He continued, "Apologize to Maya properly and compensate for the door." Natalie, visibly distressed, began to apologize tearfully. "I'm sorry, I'm so sorry," she said, but my brother cut her off. "The apology isn't for me," he snapped, glaring at her fiercely. I told my brother it was okay now, but he kept his eyes fixed on Natalie. Natalie then turned to me, knelt down, and apologized. "I won't do something like this again. I will compensate for the damage." I accepted her apology and decided to move past the incident. However, I was curious about why this had happened, so I asked Natalie. She replied, "I thought if I made a scene, it would force you to work." I considered whether I should reveal the nature of my job to her before the wedding, but since it would go against company policy, I chose to keep it to myself for now. To ease the tense atmosphere between my brother and Natalie, I brought out 2 live concert tickets from my room and handed one to each of them. Upon seeing the tickets, Natalie's eyes widened with excitement. "These are for Aim's concert," she exclaimed, turning bright red with joy. She looked at my brother and said, "Let's go." Her face was radiant with happiness. My brother asked, "Are you sure? These are hard to get." I replied, "I happen to get them. You can use them as a peace offering if you'd like." Seeing their delighted reactions made me feel joyful as well. The good vibes returned, and everyone was able to forget about the damaged door and enjoy the rest of the meal. On the day of the concert, while I was out, Natalie visited my house excitedly to express her gratitude. Since I wasn't home, she told my parents, "Enjoy. Maya has decided to work outside, and the concert was fantastic. I'm so happy she made that decision." After the concert, my brother called me. He had separated from Natalie earlier due to a company drinking party. He was thrilled and said, "The concert was amazing. Natalie is actually a huge fan of AIM and had always wanted to get tickets to the annual concert. She was overjoyed to see AIM and fulfill her longtime wish." On the way home, Natalie had said that AIM was adorable, beautiful, and that her songs and lyrics were incredible. I told my brother I was glad we made up. He replied, "The soundproof door we paid for as compensation cost $7,000. I responded, "That sounds about right." He was taken aback. "That's expensive." I explained that since it was a soundproof room, I had invested a lot of effort and money into the components, which surprised him even more. Natalie mentioned that while the $7,000 expense was painful, the concert made up for it. As for me, the door would be fixed, and seeing my brother and his friends getting along made me feel really good about giving them the tickets. Despite Natalie's continued misunderstanding about my work-from-home job, she believed I had started working outside after the concert and was pleased by what she thought was progress. As soon as she realized her mistake, she began calling and visiting my house daily, insisting that I get a job. I had hoped to endure her demands until the wedding, but things only escalated. Even though I wanted to avoid seeing her until then, Natalie frequently pressed the call light switch to summon me. Whenever I left my room and went to the living room, she would nag me about getting a job before the wedding and her aversion to having a jobless person in the family. To distract her, I started giving her various merchandise like mascots and file cases from my previous company. Initially, she was thrilled with the AIM goods, but eventually, she started questioning why I had so much AIM merchandise. Reluctantly, I explained that a friend who works with AIM's company gives them to me. Hearing this, Natalie's mood improved even more as she requested, "Please get me more tickets next time." However, she began to demand more merchandise and even made a fuss about wanting to enter my room. I was concerned she might damage the door again, so I decided to give her a stern warning. "Natalie," I said firmly, "if you break the door again, it won't just be the door fee this time. Last time, I paid for the repairs, but next time, you'll be the one footing the bill." Her face went pale, and I wondered if she was truly planning to damage the door again. I could only hope the wedding would be over soon so I could be free from this situation. Until the wedding day, Natalie's visits and the flashing call light were constant. I lost count of how many times I shouted "Enough already" from my room. I tried discussing it with my brother, but he seemed resigned, saying, I've told Natalie 100 times that Maya works, but she just doesn't listen. In my mind, I wanted to tell my brother to get as angry as he had been when the door was broken, but I knew that was not an option. He was busy finishing up work before the wedding so he could go on the honeymoon, and I had no choice but to give up. Finally, it was the day before the wedding. Our parents planned to spend the day together, and we enjoyed a fun evening reminiscing and looking through old family albums. It was nice to have all four of us together after a long time. When I mentioned that after I get married, my brother would have his own family, leaving just the three of us with our parents, I noted that it felt a bit lonely. My brother replied reassuringly, No, I'll come by and spend the day with you. I was glad to hear that. In the calm of the evening, my brother's cell phone rang. It was Natalie, who asked to speak with me. He handed me the phone, saying, Natalie wants to talk to you. When I answered, Natalie said, Hey, something's up with AIM. There's a big announcement tomorrow. Ask your friend who gives you the merchandise what it's about. What if she's quitting or going on hiatus? Apparently, AIM's agency had announced a major announcement on social media for the following day. Not wanting to be disturbed during my relaxing family time, I said I didn't know and hung up the phone. My brother seemed to share my sentiment and turned off his cell phone. As our father reminded us that we had to get up early the next day, my brother bowed deeply and said, Father, Mother, thank you for taking care of me for so long. From now on, I will be happy with Natalie. My mom quickly responded, That's what women do when they get married. When my brother questioned her, our family ended the night before the wedding with a hearty laugh. Finally, the wedding day arrived. I informed my family that I would be a little late in the morning while my parents and brother went ahead to the venue. When I arrived at the venue a little later, I went to the waiting room to congratulate Natalie. I knocked on the door, and there she was, the beautiful bride, sitting alone and fully prepared. As I was about to offer my congratulations, Natalie's demeanor shifted dramatically. She turned to me with a scowl and said, Hey, there's something I still need to address from yesterday when you hung up the phone. I apologized and asked what she wanted. She said curtly, You can go home now. I replied, But it's my brother's wedding. She responded, I've been telling you this for a long time. Why didn't you get a job? I don't want people thinking you're part of the family. Before I could protest, Natalie stepped closer, almost nose to nose with me, and said, If I say go home, then go home. She then slammed the door shut with force. Feeling dejected, I retreated to a separate room that had been reserved for me. There, I had my makeup and hair done by professionals and changed into the cocktail dress I had bought for the wedding, preparing for my brother's wedding that I wouldn't be attending. In the midst of this, I received a call from my parents. I explained the situation, assuring them that even though I wouldn't be at the ceremony, I still intended to celebrate in my own way. As the wedding ceremony began, I decided to watch the event on the venue's monitor to feel somewhat connected. There was a moment when my brother looked for me, and I nearly broke down in tears. But I reminded myself that it was a day for celebration, not tears, and continued to watch and send my blessings. After the ceremony, the female MC announced, We have a special celebration video for the stars of today's show. Please look at the monitor. The room darkened, and a video began playing. The screen lit up with an image of AIM, whom Natalie adored, and AIM shared a congratulatory message. Yes, in truth, I am AIM. Congratulations on your marriage, brother and Natalie. Natalie's eyes widened in shock as she turned to my brother, who seemed to be saying, That's Maya. The video continued with me giving a simple excuse for my absence, stating that I had urgent matters to attend to. I added, I'm sorry I never told you I'm part of your new family. However, I've decided to work overseas and probably won't see each other in the future, so feel free to pretend we're not family. Oh, and I wasn't a shut-in. I was working in my home studio. Despite a hint of sarcasm, I concluded my message with, I wish you happiness. As the lights came back on, all eyes were on Natalie. She looked as pale as a ghost and was utterly dumbfounded. Once my part was done, I left the venue with the hair and makeup artists and other staff. Later, my brother called me. It turns out that after we left, Natalie was supposed to thank the guests and see them off, but instead spent her time frantically searching for me. When she found out I had already left, she broke down crying in front of the folding screen. I also heard from friends that she's now known as the bride who wasn't considered family by AIM, and my speech from the wedding has gone viral on social media. She regrets her actions and now finds it difficult to even go out in her neighborhood.
Glass shattered downstairs, followed by a muffled curse that made my blood run cold. I knew that voice. The same voice that had criticized my wedding dress, my choice of career, and most recently, my parenting skills. I gripped the baseball bat from behind our bedroom door, my bare feet silent on the hardwood floor. Charlie slept peacefully in his room, unaware that his grandmother had just broken into our house at 3 in the morning. The kitchen lights blazed as I crept down the stairs. Dolly Monroe stood amid a sea of scattered luggage, holding a broken flower vase like it personally offended her. Her silver-streaked hair was perfectly coiffed despite the ungodly hour. Really, Penelope? These hideous flowers by the door? I told Mark you have no sense of style. She dropped the broken pieces into the trash without a hint of remorse. Where's my son? What are you doing in my house, Dolly? Don't be dramatic. I'm moving in. She wheeled another suitcase through the doorway. Marcus knows all about it. My fingers tightened around the bat. Mark knows nothing about this. Oh, but he does. She pulled out her phone, showing me a text conversation. He agreed weeks ago. Didn't he tell you? My husband's messages glowed on the screen. Of course you can stay, Mom. As long as you need. Dated 3 weeks ago. The bat lowered to my side as reality sank in. My own husband had betrayed me, invited his mother into our sanctuary without a single word to me. Now, be a dear and help me with these bags. Dolly gestured to the pile of expensive luggage cluttering my entryway. The guest room needs a thorough cleaning, by the way. I noticed cobwebs last time I visited. There is no guest room anymore. It's Charlie's playroom. Her face hardened. Well, that won't do at all. We'll move his things tomorrow. Children don't need that much space anyway. You're not touching my son's room. Don't be difficult, Penelope. I raised Marcus just fine without all these modern parenting notions. She began dragging a suitcase toward the stairs. Speaking of which, I've noticed Charlie seems quite attached to you. Not healthy at his age. My chest tightened. He's 2. Precisely. Marcus was much more independent at that age. But we'll work on that. Footsteps creaked overhead, Mark, finally awakening to the chaos below. I watched him descend, his face shifting from confusion to recognition to guilt. Mom? What are you doing here now? I thought you weren't coming until next month. Plans changed, darling. She kissed his cheek, shooting me a triumphant look. The house sold faster than expected. But you said any time was fine, remember? Mark's eyes met mine, pleading for understanding. Penny, I meant to tell you. When? The word came out sharp enough to make him flinch. When exactly were you planning to tell me your mother was moving in? Don't be angry with him, Dolly interjected. He's such a good son, taking care of his mother in her time of need. A cry echoed from upstairs, Charlie, awakened by the commotion. Before I could move, Dolly was already heading toward the stairs. I'll get him. Poor dear needs his grandmother's touch. Don't you dare. My voice was barely a whisper, but it stopped her mid-step. Touch my son, and I swear. Penny! Mark's shock at my tone only fueled my rage. No. I moved between Dolly and the stairs. This is my house. My son. You don't get to waltz in here and take over. Dolly's smile never wavered. Oh, sweetheart. I already have. Charlie's cries grew louder, and I faced a choice: deal with my mother-in-law or comfort my son. As I turned to climb the stairs, I caught her satisfied smirk. This was just the beginning. She thought she'd won, but she had no idea what I was capable of. Not yet. 3 days into Dolly's invasion, I found her rearranging my kitchen cabinets. My grandmother's china set, the only thing I had left of her, sat in a cardboard box marked donate. These old dishes were taking up so much space, she said, not bothering to look at me. And really, Penelope, organizing by color instead of function? No wonder Marcus always complained about never finding anything. I clutched the box to my chest. Mark never complained about the kitchen. Oh, he wouldn't, to you. She slid another stack of plates into a new spot. He's too kind. But a mother knows when her son is unhappy. The sound of Charlie's laughter drifted in from the living room, where Mark was supposedly watching him. Instead, I found my 2-year-old covered in chocolate, drawing on the walls with sticky fingers while Mark dozed on the couch. I gave him a little treat, Dolly called from the kitchen. Poor thing never gets sweets. All that organic nonsense you insist on. I grabbed the wet wipes, kneeling beside Charlie. Hey, baby. Let's get you cleaned up. No. He squirmed away, leaving chocolate handprints on my shirt. Gamma said play. The word stabbed through me. 3 days, and she'd already trained him to call her that. Mark. I nudged his foot. Wake up. Your son is destroying our walls. He stirred, blinking at the mess. Oh, shit, shoot. Sorry, I dozed off. While your mother fed him sugar and let him vandalize the house. Come on, Penny. It's not vandalism. He's just being a kid. A kid who's going to be impossible to put down for his nap now. Dolly appeared in the doorway. Naps are another modern obsession. Marcus never needed them past age 2. Well, Charlie does. I lifted my squirming son. And he needs structure, not sugar and chaos. Structure? She laughed. Is that what you call your rigid little schedules? Children need freedom to explore. Mom, Mark started, but she waved him off. I'm only trying to help. Heaven knows you both need it, working such long hours. Which reminds me, I've been thinking about the guest room situation. There is no situation, I said. You're not taking Charlie's playroom. Actually, Mark cleared his throat. Maybe we should consider it. Just temporarily. Mom needs her own space, and Charlie has plenty of room in his bedroom for toys. The betrayal burned worse than the first night. You're taking her side? I'm not taking sides. I'm trying to be practical. Practical would have been discussing this with your wife before inviting your mother to live with us. Dolly touched Mark's arm. Don't let her make you feel guilty, darling. You're being a good son. A good son? I laughed. What about being a good husband? A good father? Penny. No. I'm done. I headed for the stairs with Charlie. Clean up this mess. Both of you. You see how she speaks to you? Dolly's voice carried up the stairs. So disrespectful. Your father would never have tolerated. Don't. Mark's sharp tone surprised me. Don't bring Dad into this. I paused on the landing, holding Charlie closer. I'm only saying what he would have said, Dolly continued, her voice softening. He always worried about you, you know. Worried you'd let someone control you. The silence that followed felt heavy with unspoken words. Then Mark sighed, that same defeated sound I'd heard too often lately. I'll clean up the walls, he said. And maybe we can look at reorganizing the upstairs this weekend. I carried Charlie to his room, my mind racing. Dolly wasn't just trying to take over my house, she was rewriting history, manipulating Mark's memories of his own father. But she'd made a mistake, revealing that particular weapon. Because I remembered Mark's father differently. Remembered the letters he'd written Mark before he died, warning him about Dolly's manipulations. Letters that Mark had never seen, because his mother had intercepted them. Letters I'd found in our attic last year, hidden in an old box of Mark's childhood things. I kissed Charlie's chocolate-stained cheek. Time to clean up, baby. Mommy has some planning to do. The letters felt heavy in my hands as I sat in Lisa's kitchen, away from Dolly's prying eyes. My neighbor poured more wine, waiting for me to speak. She's playing sick now, I said. Clutching her chest, taking these mysterious pills. Mark's completely falling for it. Classic manipulation. Lisa leaned forward. What's in the letters? Everything. His father knew what she was doing, tried to warn Mark before he died. I spread the yellowed pages across her counter. He wrote about how she isolated them, controlled everything through guilt and fake emergencies. A text lit up my phone, Mark asking where I was. I ignored it. You have to show him, Lisa said. I tried. This morning, I mentioned his father's concerns about Dolly. He shut down completely, said I was being cruel bringing up painful memories. While she gets to weaponize those same memories? My phone buzzed again. This time it was Dolly. Marcus is worried sick. I'm not feeling well, and Charlie keeps asking for his mother. She's good, I muttered, showing Lisa the text. Really good. You need to get back, don't you? I nodded, gathering the letters. Thanks for the wine. And the sanctuary. The house was quiet when I returned, too quiet. I found Mark in the kitchen, his face grave. Where were you? He asked. At Lisa's. I needed a break. While Mom was having chest pains? My stomach clenched. What? She could barely breathe, Penny. Charlie was crying, and you weren't here. I was gone for 2 hours. The doctor's coming tomorrow. He wouldn't meet my eyes. Mom thinks the stress is making her condition worse. What condition? She's never mentioned any condition before. Because you never bothered to ask. His outburst startled us both. You've been hostile since she arrived. Maybe if you tried to understand. Understand what? How she's systematically taking over our home. Undermining every decision I make about Charlie? She's trying to help. No, she's manipulating you. Just like she always has. His face hardened. You don't know anything about my mother. I know your father tried to warn you about her. Don't. He wrote you letters, Mark. Letters she hid from you. Stop it. He turned away. I'm not having this conversation. From upstairs, Dolly's voice carried down, Marcus? I'm feeling quite faint. He rushed past me without another word. I followed, reaching the top of the stairs in time to see Dolly swooning dramatically on the landing, one hand pressed to her heart. Maybe we should go to the hospital, Mark suggested, supporting her. No, no. She patted his arm weakly. I just need rest. And perhaps if things were calmer here. Her eyes met mine, triumphant despite her performance. I'll make you some tea, Mark said. Such a good son. She smiled. Oh, and Penelope? Charlie's toys are everywhere in that playroom. I nearly tripped. We really must do something about that space. I watched them disappear into her temporary room, the room she was systematically turning permanent. Through the partially open door, I heard her murmuring to Mark. I hate to say it, darling, but I'm worried about Penelope. These accusations, the hostility. It reminds me of your father's sister. You remember what happened to her? Mom, please. I just don't want history repeating itself. Especially with Charlie so young. I backed away, my hands shaking. She wasn't just trying to take my home or undermine my marriage. She was laying groundwork, planting seeds of doubt about my stability, my fitness as a mother. In Charlie's room, I found him sleeping peacefully, clutching the stuffed elephant I'd given him. Dolly had tried to replace it with a new toy, but he'd refused. My small victory. I touched his soft cheek, making a decision. The letters weren't enough. I needed more, concrete evidence of her manipulation, her lies. And I needed to move fast, before she convinced Mark I was the threat to our family's stability. Sweet dreams, baby, I whispered. Mommy's going to fix this. Whatever it takes. I found the papers in Dolly's purse while searching for her supposed heart medication. Instead of prescription bottles, I discovered legal documents, a deed transfer form for our house. Already filled out with Mark's signature line highlighted in yellow. My hands trembled as I photographed each page with my phone. Through the bedroom window, I could see Dolly in the garden with Charlie, teaching him to pull up my carefully planted herbs. Weeds, she'd called them yesterday. This garden needs a proper English layout. The front door opened downstairs. Mark, home early. I slipped the papers back into her purse, exactly as I'd found them. Mom? His voice carried upstairs. Penny? I met him in the kitchen, where he was frowning at a stack of mail. Why is there a letter from the bank about refinancing? He asked. What? He held up the envelope. Did you apply for a loan without telling me? I've never, the realization hit like ice water. Show me that. The application was in both our names, with forged signatures and inflated income statements. My stomach lurched when I saw the requested amount, enough to buy out my share of the house, if someone were planning to force a sale. Mark, I didn't do this. Then who did? His voice had that edge now, the one that appeared whenever he thought I was attacking his mother. Because it wasn't me, and Mom's been too sick to. Sick? I laughed, the sound harsh even to my ears. Go check her purse. See how many heart medications you find. Stop it. Just stop. He rubbed his temples. First the accusations about Dad's letters, now this? What's next? Are you going to claim she's trying to steal the house too? The irony burned. Actually. Marcus? Dolly appeared in the doorway, supporting herself on the frame. Charlie clung to her leg, dirt smeared across his cheeks. I heard raised voices. Is everything all right? Everything's fine, Mom. Just discussing some paperwork. Her eyes flickered to the loan application, then to me. A slight smile touched her lips. Gamma stay forever? Charlie asked, and something in me snapped. I grabbed my phone, pulling up the photos. Look at these, Mark. Really look. What are you? Your mother's been planning this from the start. The deed transfer, the loan application, she's trying to take our home. Dolly swayed dramatically. Oh, Marcus, she's doing it again. Just like this morning, making these wild accusations. I have proof this time. I thrust the phone at Mark. She's not sick. She's not helpless. She's... Enough. Mark's shout made Charlie jump. I can't take any more of this paranoia. Mom's right, you need help. Help? The word felt like ash in my mouth. I've been reading about postpartum psychosis, Dolly said softly. It can appear months or even years after. Don't you dare. I stepped toward her, but Mark moved between us. Penny, you're scaring Charlie. Our son was crying now, still clutching Dolly's leg. She stroked his hair with practiced concern. Perhaps I should take him upstairs, she suggested. While you two talk? No. I moved to grab Charlie, but Mark caught my arm. Let her take him, he said. You're not thinking clearly. I watched helplessly as Dolly led my son away, her limp magically more pronounced. The moment they disappeared upstairs, I wrenched free from Mark's grip. She's going to take everything, I whispered. And you're helping her do it. I'm trying to help you. He reached for me again, but I backed away. We can find someone for you to talk to, get you the support you need. Support? I grabbed my keys from the counter. I'll show you exactly what kind of support I need. Where are you going? To get my son back. I headed for the stairs. And if you try to stop me, I swear I'll. You'll what? His voice was cold now. Prove everything Mom's been saying about your stability? I froze, understanding finally hitting me. This was her masterpiece, turning my own husband against me, making my desperate attempts to protect our family look like madness. You're right, I said quietly. I need some air. Just a walk to clear my head. He relaxed slightly, believing he'd won. But as I walked out the door, I wasn't heading for a casual stroll. I was going to war. Lisa's laptop glowed in the darkness of her kitchen as we scrolled through years of Dolly's social media history. Empty wine glasses and scattered papers surrounded us, bank statements, property records, old newspaper clippings. There, Lisa pointed. 3 other houses in 5 years. All belonging to widowers or divorced men with children. And she lived in each one until the families fell apart. Lisa clicked through the photos. She's done this before, Penny. Multiple times. My phone buzzed, another message from Mark, come home. We can talk about this. And then, Mom's worried about your state of mind. He's already talking about psychiatric evaluations, I said. Dolly's convinced him I'm having some kind of breakdown. Then we need proof she's done this before. Lisa opened another tab. Look, this woman posted warnings about her years ago. Caroline Bennett. Her father almost lost everything. A sharp knock at Lisa's front door made us both jump. Through the window, I saw Mark's silhouette. Hide this, I whispered, helping Lisa clear the evidence. He can't know what we found. Mark's face was tight with concern when Lisa let him in. Charlie's been crying for you. I needed space to think. About what? Running away? Taking our son? He stepped closer. Mom found the packed bag in your closet. The bag I'd never packed. The trap I should have seen coming. Mark. She's right, isn't she? You're not well. Your mother is a predator. The words burst out before I could stop them. She's done this before, to other families. I can prove it. More conspiracy theories? He shook his head. This is exactly what she warned me about. asked Caroline Bennett. I grabbed my phone, pulling up the social media post. Or David Thompson's family. Or. Stop. He held up his hand. Just stop. Come home. We'll get you help. I'm not crazy. Then why are you acting like this? Searching through Mom's things, making wild accusations, planning to kidnap our son? I never. The bag, Penny. Packed with Charlie's clothes and your passport. Lisa stepped between us. Mark, maybe you should listen. Stay out of this. His voice hardened. You're only encouraging her paranoia. My phone chimed again. A message from an unknown number. This is Caroline Bennett. Lisa reached out. We need to talk about Dolores Monroe. Hope flared, but I kept my expression neutral. Fine, I said. You're right. I need to come home. Mark's relief was painful to watch. Thank you. Mom suggested we talk to Dr. Phillips tomorrow. Whatever you think is best. I touched his arm, feeling him relax further. I just need to use the bathroom first. In Lisa's bathroom, I quickly typed a response to Caroline, tell me everything. Recording all conversations from now on. Then I deleted the messages and turned on my phone's voice recorder. If Dolly wanted to play games with reality, I'd give her exactly what she wanted, a seemingly unstable daughter-in-law. Slowly surrendering to her manipulation. Let her think she'd won. Let her get comfortable. Let her slip up and reveal her true self, just like she had with the others. When I emerged, Mark was waiting by the door. Ready? Yes. I smiled weakly. I'm sorry for worrying you. In the car, he reached for my hand. It's going to be okay. Mom knows a great therapist. Of course she does. I squeezed his hand, picturing Caroline Bennett's message. Your mother knows exactly what I need. At home, Dolly waited in the living room, Charlie asleep in her lap. Her expression was perfect, concerned, loving, victorious. Oh, sweetheart, she said. We've been so worried. I let my shoulders slump in defeat. I know. I'm sorry. She patted the couch beside her. Sit. Tell me what's troubling you. As I sat down, my phone silently recording in my pocket, I thought about all the other families she destroyed. All the other lives she'd invaded and dismantled. You're right, I whispered. I need help. Her smile widened, and in that moment, I saw what Caroline Bennett must have seen, the predator beneath the mask, already savoring her victory. But this time would be different. This time, her prey was hunting back. Caroline Bennett's testimony played through my phone's speaker, her voice trembling even years later. She destroyed my family. Made my father think I was unstable, dangerous. By the time we realized what she'd done, she already had control of everything. I watched Mark's face as he listened, searching for any sign of recognition. We sat in our kitchen at midnight, Charlie safely asleep upstairs. While Dolly attended her doctor's appointment, really a meeting with her lawyer about the house deed. There are others, I said softly. David Thompson's family. The Hendersons. All the same pattern. Mark stared at his hands. This could be anyone. Some angry ex-daughter-in-law making accusations. Check the dates. The properties. It all matches. You've been investigating my mother? His voice hardened. Working with these strangers to build some case against her? To protect our family. From what? She's helped us. Taken care of Charlie, supported us. Supported us? I played another recording, Dolly on the phone with her lawyer yesterday. Once the deed transfer is complete, we can discuss options for removing her from the property. Marcus will understand eventually. He always does what's best for family. The kitchen door creaked. We both turned to find Dolly standing there, her face a perfect mask of hurt betrayal. "Oh, Marcus," she whispered. "What has she done to you?" "Done to him?" I stood, finally ready for this confrontation. "Tell him about the others, Dolly. Tell him what happened to their families." "Others?" She moved to Mark's side, touching his shoulder. "Darling, this is worse than I feared. She's created an entire conspiracy." "Stop lying." I thrust my phone forward, playing Caroline's testimony again. "Your name is on all the property records. The dates, the pattern. Anyone could fake those recordings." Dolly's voice cracked perfectly. "I knew you were troubled, but this elaborate plot to turn my son against me." "Plot?" I laughed. "Like the planted bag in my closet? The forged loan documents?" "What documents?" Mark asked. "The ones that disappeared from her purse after I photographed them." I reached for my phone again, but the screen was black. Dead battery. "No, no, no." "Sweetheart," Dolly said to Mark, "remember what Dr. Phillips said about paranoid delusions? The elaborate stories they create?" "I'm not," I stopped, seeing Mark's expression. "You've already been talking to doctors about me?" "We had to," he said. "Mom's been worried." "Of course she has." I backed away from them both. "She's been planning this from the start." "Planning what?" Dolly's voice rose. "To help you? To support this family while you spiral further into these dangerous fantasies?" "Mark, please." I grabbed his arm. "Call Caroline Bennett. Talk to the others. Just investigate." He pulled away. "I did investigate. That number you gave me? It's disconnected." "The property records?" "Mom never owned those houses." "I checked everything, Penny. There's nothing there." "The room spun." "That's not possible." "Lisa saw." "Lisa enabled you," Dolly said gently. "Fed into your paranoia. That's why we asked her to keep her distance." "Asked her?" Ice filled my veins. "What did you do?" "We filed a restraining order," Mark said. "For your own good." She was making everything worse. I ran to the window. Lisa's house was dark, empty. "Where is she?" "Visiting family," Dolly said. "She understood it was best to give you space to heal." My last ally, gone. My evidence, erased. Even the photos on my phone, I checked again, hands shaking, deleted during the battery death. "I've arranged everything," Dolly continued. "The facility has an excellent reputation. Very discreet." "Facility?" The word barely came out. "Just for a few weeks," Mark said. "Until you're better." I looked between them, my husband's pained expression, Dolly's perfectly constructed concern, and understood. This was her masterpiece. Every move calculated, every piece positioned. While I thought I was gathering evidence, she was building her case. Every reaction she'd provoked, every paranoid accusation she'd engineered, had led to this moment. "Charlie needs his mother healthy," Dolly said, reaching for my arm. "Come with us. Let us help you." I jerked away, but Mark blocked the doorway. Through the window, I saw headlights approaching, the intervention team Dolly had undoubtedly already arranged. My son slept upstairs, unaware his mother was about to disappear. Just like Caroline Bennett's family. Just like all the others. Game over. Dolly had won. Or had she? The intervention team never made it through the door. Instead, they found Caroline Bennett herself standing on our porch, flanked by 2 police officers and a silver-haired man I'd never seen before. "Hello, Dolly," the man said. "Remember me? James Thompson. David's brother." Dolly's mask slipped for just a second. "Marcus, call security." "Security?" Caroline stepped forward. "Like the private security firm you hired to intimidate me? The one that's now under investigation?" Mark looked between them, confusion breaking through his certainty. "Mom?" "Don't listen to them," Dolly grabbed his arm. "They're working with Penelope, trying to destroy our family." "Like you destroyed mine?" James Thompson pulled out a folder. "We have the proof now. All of it. The forged documents, the manipulated bank records, the falsified medical reports. And the recordings," I added quietly. "The ones you thought you deleted from my phone?" Lisa uploaded everything to a secure server before she went away. Dolly's composure cracked. "You ungrateful little." "Choose your next words carefully," one officer warned. "We have questions about several suspicious property transfers in 3 states. Mark backed away from his mother, realization dawning. "The houses. The other families. It's all true?" "Of course not." But Dolly's denial sounded hollow now. "Marcus, darling, they're trying to turn you against me. Just like your father." "My father?" Mark's voice hardened. "Tell me about the letters, Mom. The ones he wrote before he died." "What letters?" I pulled them from my jacket, the originals this time, not copies. "The ones where he warned Mark about you. About your patterns. The ones you intercepted and hid." "You went through my things?" Real fear crept into her voice. "No," Mark said. "I did. Last night, while you were meeting your lawyer. Found them exactly where Penny said they'd be." Dolly lunged for the letters, but Mark pulled them away. "Don't bother. I've read them all. Every warning, every detail about what you did to our family. I protected you." She was unraveling now, her careful facade crumbling. "Your father was weak, just like you're being weak now. Everything I did was for your own good. By destroying everyone I love? By trying to commit my wife? She was ruining everything. Just like your father, just like all of them, trying to take you away from me." The officers moved forward, but Dolly wasn't finished. She turned to me, eyes wild. "You think you've won? You think this changes anything?" She laughed, the sound brittle. "He'll always choose me. They always do. Because I'm the only one who truly loves them, who understands what's best." "No, Mom." Mark's voice was quiet but firm. "Not anymore." She froze. "Marcus?" "Officers," he said, "I'd like to press charges. For fraud, for the forged documents in my name. For all of it." "You can't," she whispered. "I'm your mother." "Yes. You are. That's what makes this necessary." As the officers led her away, her mask finally shattered completely. She screamed accusations, threats, promises of revenge. But Mark didn't waver. Charlie's cry echoed from upstairs, awakened by the chaos. Mark started to go, but I caught his arm. Wait. I met his eyes. Are you sure? About all of this? He looked at the letters in his hand, then at Dolly being placed in the police car. I should have seen it sooner. Should have believed you. You saw what she wanted you to see. We all did. He touched my cheek, grief and determination warring in his expression. I have to go with them. Make a statement, start making this right. Will you still be here when I get back? Charlie cried out again, and this time I let go of Mark's arm. We'll be here. But Mark? Things can't just go back to normal. I know. He stepped back. I have to prove myself again. To both of you. I watched him walk away, then climbed the stairs to our son. Through the window, I could see Dolly in the police car, her face a mask of fury and fear. She'd lost everything she tried to steal, her son, her control, her carefully constructed reality. But as I held Charlie, I wondered about the cost of victory and whether any of us would ever truly recover from the wounds she'd left behind. Spring bloomed in my restored garden, the herbs Dolly had ripped out now thriving again. Charlie chased butterflies through the new growth while I pulled weeds, each one a reminder of how quickly unwanted things could take root. The doorbell rang. Lisa stood on the porch with a folder of newspaper clippings. They denied her appeal. She'll serve the full sentence. Good. I brushed dirt from my hands. The others? Caroline Bennett got her father's house back. The Thompsons recovered most of their assets. She hesitated. Mark called me again. Charlie's laughter floated across the yard as he discovered a ladybug. I focused on that sound, not the ache that still accompanied his father's name. He's in therapy, Lisa continued. Real therapy, not the kind Dolly arranged. He wants to know if you'll consider. I can't. The words came easier now. Not yet. Maybe not ever. He's changed. He had to hit rock bottom to see the truth. To choose truth. I watched Charlie playing. I won't risk Charlie going through that again. Lisa nodded, understanding. We'd had this conversation before, would probably have it again. Some wounds needed more than apologies to heal. Inside, I made coffee while Lisa spread out the clippings. Other cases, other families torn apart by Dolly's manipulations. Some had recovered. Others remained fractured, trust too damaged to rebuild. You know what's strange? I touched a photo of Dolly being led from the courthouse. I almost understand her now. The fear of losing control, of being alone. The things it drove her to do. But you're not her. No. I smiled as Charlie ran past the window. I chose to fight for love, not control. The mail arrived, bills, advertisements, and a thick envelope from Mark's lawyer. Inside was a deed transfer, returning full ownership of the house to me. And beneath it, a letter. You don't have to read it, Lisa said. But I did, scanning words of remorse, of understanding, of hope. The final lines caught me. I'm learning to recognize manipulation, to stand against it. Like you did. Like you taught me to do. Charlie deserves that strength in both his parents, whether we're together or apart. A cry from outside, Charlie had fallen. I rushed out, but he was already picking himself up, brushing off his knees. Okay, Mommy, he declared. I strong. Yes, you are, baby. I hugged him close, breathing in his sweet, solid presence. We both are. Later, after Lisa left and Charlie was asleep, I sat in my garden. The motion sensor light flickered on, illuminating the space where Dolly had once held court, plotting to steal everything I loved. Now only peaceful shadows remained. My phone buzzed, a text from Caroline Bennett, support group meeting tomorrow. Other survivors want to meet you. I thought about Dolly in her prison cell, probably already finding new ways to manipulate those around her. About Mark, finally facing his own wounds and weaknesses. About Charlie, growing up knowing the difference between love and control. The garden needed more work. Some plants were still struggling, others showing surprising resilience. Like family. Like healing. Like truth. I texted back, I'll be there. Then I pulled one last weed, its roots deep but not unbreakable. Above me, stars pierced the darkness, countless points of light, each one a reminder that even the darkest nights eventually yield to dawn. Charlie's nightlight glowed in his window, a beacon calling me back inside. To him. To our home. To the life we were rebuilding, stronger now for having been tested. Not all victories look like we expect. Sometimes they're found in small moments, a child's laughter, a garden's renewal, the quiet strength of choosing your own path. Sometimes the greatest revenge isn't in destroying your enemy, but in refusing to become them. I stood, brushing earth from my knees, and went to check on my son. Tomorrow would bring its own challenges, its own choices. But tonight, in this moment, we were safe. We were free. And that was enough.
I stand frozen behind the oak tree, watching my mother-in-law's lips move with practiced venom. Her voice carries across the backyard, riding the smoke from the grill like a poison seeking its target. Ryan could have done so much better. That woman is nothing but a gold digger with her eyes on our family's money. The laughter that follows slices through me like shattered glass. I'm Amelia. And this is the moment I decide to destroy Margaret Carter's carefully constructed world of country club memberships and social superiority. My fingers dig into the rough bark as I watch her hold court among her friends, all of them nodding along like well-trained puppets. The pearls around her neck catch the afternoon sun, matching the gleam of malice in her eyes. 3 years of enduring her subtle jabs and backhanded compliments, and this is what it comes down to. Did you hear how she maxed out Ryan's credit card last month? Margaret's voice drops to a stage whisper. My poor boy works so hard as a teacher, and she's bleeding him dry. I almost laugh. If she only knew about the 3 tech companies I've built and sold. Or the offshore accounts that would make her family's supposed wealth look like pocket change. But Ryan wanted us to live modestly, to prove we weren't about the money. What a fucking joke that turned out to be. Amelia? Ryan's voice startles me. He's standing there with 2 glasses of wine, concern etched across his face. What are you doing behind the tree? Just listening to your mother's latest performance. My voice comes out steady, surprising even me. She's really outdone herself this time. His face falls. You know how she gets after a few glasses of wine. Just ignore. Don't. I cut him off. Don't make excuses for her. Not anymore. He reaches for my hand, but I step back. Through the gap in the branches, I can see Grace, Ryan's sister. Shifting uncomfortably as Margaret launches into another story about my supposed spending habits. I need to leave, I say, already walking toward the house. Amelia, please. Ryan follows me. Let's just talk about this. I spin around, nearly causing him to spill the wine. Talk about what, Ryan? How your mother has been systematically trying to destroy my reputation since the day we got married. How you've never once stood up to her. That's not fair. What's not fair is watching the man I love stand by while his mother tears me apart. My voice cracks, and I hate myself for it. Do you know what the worst part is? I could buy and sell this entire neighborhood 10 times over. But I've been living like a middle school teacher's wife because you wanted to prove we're not about money. His eyes widen. We'd agreed never to discuss my wealth with his family, but right now, I don't care about our promises. Amelia. Margaret's voice rings out, sickeningly sweet. Leaving so soon, dear? I turn to face her, and something inside me shifts. The hurt crystallizes into something harder, colder. More dangerous. Actually, Margaret, I think I'll stay. I smile, and it feels like baring teeth. I wouldn't want to miss any more of your colorful stories about me. She blanches slightly, but recovers quickly. Oh, I was just telling the ladies about your shopping habits. We're all so concerned about Ryan's finances. Are you? I step closer, close enough to smell her expensive perfume. How thoughtful of you to worry about our finances. I'm sure we'll have plenty of time to discuss money in the coming months. I leave her standing there, confusion warring with suspicion on her face. Ryan calls after me, but I keep walking. In my mind, plans are already taking shape, elegant, devastating plans that will make Margaret Carter wish she'd never questioned my worth. Let her think she's won this round. I've got time, money, and nothing left to lose except the facade of the dutiful daughter-in-law. Game on, Margaret. Game fucking on. The silence in our bedroom feels like a living thing, growing heavier with each tick of the clock. Ryan paces, his shadow cutting across the wall like a pendulum. I sit at my vanity, methodically removing my jewelry, each piece hitting the tray with a deliberate clink. You can't just declare war on my mother, he finally says. Watch me. I meet his eyes in the mirror. Unless you prefer I continue being her punching bag? He stops pacing. That's not fair. You know she's just protective. Protective? I spin around. Is that what we're calling public humiliation now? The doorbell rings, saving him from responding. Footsteps thunder up the stairs, and Grace bursts in without knocking, her face flushed. Mom's on the warpath, she announces, dropping onto our bed. She's already called Aunt Susan and half the country club about your disturbing behavior at the barbecue. I laugh, but there's no humor in it. Of course she has. Heaven forbid anyone question St. Margaret's version of events. Amelia, Ryan warns, but Grace cuts him off. No, Ryan, she's right. Mom's being horrible. Grace sits up, her eyes bright. You should have heard her at dinner. She's convinced Amelia's going to bankrupt you and run off with some tech millionaire. If she only knew. The irony makes me want to scream. Your mother needs to understand that actions have consequences, I say, standing up. And I'm done playing the meek daughter-in-law. Ryan runs his hands through his hair. What exactly are you planning? Nothing she hasn't earned. I walk to the closet, pulling out my laptop bag. But first, I need to make a call. It's almost midnight, Ryan protests. Different time zone. I head for the door, but Grace catches my arm. Whatever you're planning, she whispers, I want in. Mom needs to learn she can't control everything. I study her face, seeing the years of frustration written there. Are you sure? This could get messy. I'm sure. Her grip tightens. Besides, someone needs to keep you from going full scorched earth. Ryan steps between us. Both of you need to stop. We can fix this like adults. I'll talk to Mom. Like you've been talking to her for the past 3 years? I shake my head. No more talks, Ryan. It's time for action. My phone buzzes, Liam's calling. Perfect timing. I need to take this, I say, moving toward the door. You two should discuss where you stand, because this train's leaving the station with or without you. In the hallway, I hear Ryan's muffled voice. Grace, you can't encourage this. Her response is clear and sharp. Someone has to stand up to her, Ryan. If not us, then who? I smile, heading downstairs to the kitchen. Liam's voice greets me through the speaker. Tell me you haven't killed anyone yet. Not yet, I reply, opening my laptop. But I need access to those offshore accounts we set up after the last company sale. Jesus, Ames. What are you planning? Remember that charity foundation we discussed? I type in my passwords, watching numbers scroll across the screen. Time to make it active. Very, very active. Margaret, he asks, knowing me too well. Margaret, I confirm. She wants to paint me as a gold digger? Fine. Let's show her what real money looks like. This is going to blow up in your face, he warns, but I can hear him typing. How much do you need? I name a figure that makes him whistle. That's not revenge, Ames. That's nuclear war. No, I correct him, hearing footsteps on the stairs. That's just the opening move. Ryan appears in the doorway, his face set in determination. We need to talk. I'll call you back, I tell Liam, closing the laptop. Ready to pick a side, husband? He meets my gaze, and for the first time tonight, I see something other than conflict in his eyes. I pick us, he says quietly. But whatever you're planning, there has to be limits. I stand, walking to him slowly. Limits are what got us here. Your mother certainly doesn't believe in them. He takes my hands, and I feel the slight tremor in his. Promise me you won't destroy our family completely. I kiss him softly, tasting the fear and love mingled on his lips. I promise to leave enough pieces for rebuilding. But first, some things need to burn. The black Amex card hits the counter with a satisfying thunk. The saleswoman's eyes widen. She knows Ryan's teacher's salary couldn't possibly qualify for this level of credit. I smile, channeling Margaret's country club superiority as I gesture to the display case. I'll take the full set. And the matching earrings. 3 hours and 6 boutiques later, I'm surrounded by shopping bags in our driveway when Margaret's Mercedes pulls up. Perfect timing. She steps out, her face twisting into exactly the expression I'd hoped for. Retail therapy? Her voice drips with manufactured concern. Just a little shopping for the charity gala next month. I deliberately fumble with the bags, letting her see the designer names. Ryan's been so generous lately. Her nostrils flare. Has he now? I check my watch. Ryan should be home from school any minute. The trap is set. Would you like to come in, Margaret? I'd love your opinion on these pieces. She follows me inside, practically vibrating with righteous indignation. I spread the purchases across the dining room table: jewelry, designer clothes. A limited edition handbag that costs more than Ryan makes in 2 months. This is unconscionable, Margaret finally explodes. You're bleeding my son dry. The front door opens. Right on schedule. Mom? Ryan calls out. What are you doing here? He enters the dining room and freezes, taking in the explosion of luxury goods. His face pales. Amelia, what is all this? Your wife's latest spending spree, Margaret cuts in. On your credit cards. I maintain my carefully crafted smile. Don't worry, darling. We can afford it. We most certainly cannot. Ryan picks up a price tag and nearly chokes. This is more than my yearly salary. Margaret pounces. I've been warning you about this, Ryan. She's using you for your money, and now she's not even trying to hide it. The doorbell rings again. Grace walks in, followed by Tommy. My audience is complete. What's going on? Grace asks, eyeing the table. Your brother's wife is finally showing her true colors, Margaret announces. Look at this obscene display of. Actually, I interrupt, I think it's time for some truth-telling. I pull out my phone, opening my banking app. Ryan, remember when you insisted we keep my finances private? Well, I think that arrangement has expired. Margaret scoffs. What finances? Everyone knows you were practically penniless when you married Ryan. I turn my phone toward her, watching her face as she processes the number on the screen. Her mouth opens and closes without sound. That's just one account, I say softly. Would you like to see the others? The room goes deadly quiet. Ryan sinks into a chair, while Grace lets out a low whistle. I don't understand, Margaret stammers. No, you don't. I step closer to her. You never bothered to understand anything about me. You were too busy assuming I was after your family's modest wealth to realize I could buy this entire neighborhood without blinking. Tommy clears his throat. Margaret, perhaps we should. No, she cuts him off. This is obviously some kind of trick. Some elaborate deception to. To what? I laugh. To prove that your precious family money means nothing to me? Mission accomplished. Ryan stands suddenly. You did all this to prove a point? No, I turn to him, my voice softening. I did this because your mother has spent 3 years spreading rumors about me, questioning my character, and undermining our marriage. And you let her. So this was all revenge? Grace asks. This was truth, I correct her. And we're just getting started. Margaret straightens her spine. Well, if you think this changes anything. Oh, it changes everything, I interrupt. Because tomorrow morning, I'm announcing a new charitable foundation. The Carter Foundation for Educational Excellence. And guess who's going to be very publicly excluded from the board? The color drains from Margaret's face as she realizes the social implications. You wouldn't dare. Watch me. I begin gathering the shopping bags. Now, if you'll excuse me, I need to return all this. It was just for show, unlike some people, I don't actually need to flaunt my wealth to feel superior. As they file out, Ryan remains, staring at me like he's never seen me before. Was any of it real? He whispers. Every moment with you was real, I answer. Everything else was just theater for your mother's benefit. The question is, what's real for you? He doesn't answer, and I don't wait for him to try. Liam's penthouse feels like a sanctuary after 3 days of Ryan's silence. I stand at the floor-to-ceiling windows, watching the city lights blur through my third glass of wine. You look like hell, Liam says, refilling my glass. Margaret's cutting Ryan out of the inheritance. I press my forehead against the cool glass. She made the announcement at their weekly family dinner. The one I wasn't invited to. Isn't that exactly what you wanted? To prove she's the manipulative one? I turn to face him. Ryan hasn't spoken to me since the shopping incident. He's sleeping in the guest room. Ah. Liam settles into his leather armchair. So the plan's working perfectly, except for the small detail of destroying your marriage. My phone buzzes, a text from Grace. Mom's telling everyone you're having an affair. With a wealthy investor. Says she has proof. Fuck. I throw the phone onto the couch. She's escalating. What now? Before I can answer, my phone rings. Ryan's face appears on the screen. I answer on speaker. Where are you? His voice is tight, controlled. Working late with Liam. A pause. At his penthouse? The accusation hits me like a slap. Are you serious? Mom showed me the photos. My wine glass slips from my fingers, shattering on the hardwood. Liam jumps up, but I wave him off. What photos, Ryan? You, entering his building. Multiple nights this month. The expensive restaurants. The late meetings. His voice cracks. Were you laughing at me this whole time? The poor teacher husband while you played with your tech millionaire friend? Ryan. Just tell me one thing. Was this all a game? Marrying me, hiding your wealth, this revenge against my mother, was it all just entertainment for you and Liam? Liam reaches for the phone, but I stop him. Come to the penthouse, I say. See for yourself what's really happening. I don't think. 30 minutes. Or you can believe your mother's lies and throw away 3 years of marriage. Your choice. The line goes dead. Liam starts cleaning up the broken glass. You know this is exactly what Margaret wanted, he says. To make you look like the villain. She's had me followed. I laugh, but it sounds more like a sob. All this time I thought I was the one in control. You still are. Liam stands, glass fragments tinkling in his palm. But you need to decide what matters more, winning against Margaret or saving your marriage. I don't know anymore. I sink onto the couch. When did I become the person who'd risk everything just to prove a point? When Margaret Carter made you feel worthless. He dumps the glass in the trash. But you're not playing her game anymore, Ames. You're playing something much more dangerous. The elevator dings. Ryan steps out, looking exhausted. His eyes take in the broken glass, the wine, Liam's concerned face. Show me, he says. I pull out my laptop, opening files I'd hoped never to share. Security footage of Margaret hiring the private investigator. Email threads showing her methodical campaign to discredit me at every charity board and social club in town. Bank statements proving she'd tried to access information about my finances months before the barbecue incident. She's been planning this for years, I say quietly. Waiting for the right moment to prove I was exactly who she claimed I was. And instead of telling me, you decided to play right into her hands. Ryan's voice is hollow. You became exactly what she accused you of being. No, Liam interrupts. She became what your mother feared most, someone powerful enough to challenge her control over you. Ryan looks at me, really looks at me, for the first time in days. What happens now? I close the laptop. That depends on you. I can keep fighting this war with your mother, or we can leave. Start fresh somewhere she can't touch us. No more games, no more secrets. Running away won't solve anything, he says, but I hear the longing in his voice. Neither will staying to fight a battle that's already cost us too much. The city lights flicker behind us, casting shadows that hide as much as they reveal. In the silence, I realize we're all waiting to see which version of truth will finally break this stalemate of lies. The invitation to the Carter Foundation Gala sits on my desk like a loaded gun. I've spent the morning signing checks with enough zeros to make Margaret's inheritance look like pocket change. Each signature feels like another nail in someone's coffin, I'm just not sure whose anymore. My phone lights up with Grace's text, Mom's planning something for the gala. Dad's trying to talk her down, but she's beyond reason. The door opens and Ryan walks in, still wearing his teaching clothes. He looks older somehow, worn down by the weight of choices neither of us should have had to make. The school board accepted my resignation, he says quietly. My hand freezes mid-signature. You didn't tell me you were resigning. You didn't tell me you were buying the entire east wing of the hospital in your maiden name. I set down the pen. That was supposed to be a surprise for the gala announcement. Like the surprise of finding out my mother's been admitted for anxiety attacks? Or the surprise of discovering you've been systematically buying up every company she's invested in? The accusation hangs between us like poison gas. Before I can respond, Liam calls. Turn on the news, he says without preamble. Channel 8. The TV flickers to life, showing Margaret standing outside her country club. She's wearing her perfectly pressed tennis whites, her face a mask of concerned motherly worry. Deeply concerned about the mental state of my daughter-in-law, she's saying. The excessive spending, the erratic behavior. We're organizing an intervention because we love her and want to help. Ryan mutes the TV. She's playing her final card. She's trying to make me look unstable. I laugh, but it sounds unhinged even to my ears. Perfect timing, right before I announce the foundation. Are you? His voice is careful, measured. Unstable? I stand, walking to the window. Below, I can see reporters already gathering at our gate. Would an unstable person have orchestrated all this? The foundation, the hospital wing, the systematic dismantling of your mother's social standing? That's not an answer, Amelia. My phone buzzes again. Tommy Carter's name appears on the screen. I've never received a call from Ryan's father before. Hello? Amelia. His voice is grave. Margaret's had another episode. She's being transferred to the psychiatric ward. The irony hits me like a physical blow. Which hospital? The one you just bought. I end the call, turning to Ryan. Your mother's being committed. To my hospital. He sinks into a chair. This has to stop. It will. At the gala. I pick up the invitation. When everyone sees exactly who your mother really is. And who you've become. The question strikes harder than he probably intended. I look at my reflection in the window, designer suit, perfect makeup. Eyes burning with something that looks uncomfortably like Margaret's determination. The gala invitations went out this morning, I say instead of answering. Every social contact your mother has ever cultivated will be there. The hospital board, the country club committee, the charity league. You're going to destroy her. She tried to have me committed. And you drove her to a psychiatric ward. We stare at each other across the room that suddenly feels too small for all our unspoken accusations. My phone rings again, Grace. Mom's asking for you, she says when I answer. She says she'll tell everyone the truth at the gala. About everything. What truth? I don't know. But Amelia. She hesitates. She's not faking this breakdown. I end the call, feeling the weight of every decision I've made pressing down on me. The foundation announcement. The hospital wing. The carefully orchestrated revenge that's spiraled so far beyond my control. The gala's tomorrow, I tell Ryan. Whatever truth your mother thinks she has, whatever game she's playing. It ends there. He stands, straightening his tie like he's preparing for battle. You're right. It ends tomorrow. One way or another. As he leaves, I look back at my reflection. The woman staring back at me looks exactly like what Margaret always feared, powerful, ruthless, dangerous. I wonder when I stopped trying to prove her wrong and started proving her right. The ballroom of the Grand Plaza sparkles like a minefield of crystal and champagne. I stand at the podium, scanning faces in the crowd, society matrons clutching their pearls, board members shifting in their seats. Ryan's family huddled together like survivors of a shipwreck. The only person missing is Margaret. Ladies and gentlemen, I begin, my voice carrying across the hushed room. Welcome to the inaugural Carter Foundation Gala. The double doors burst open. Margaret glides in, still wearing her hospital gown beneath Tommy's suit jacket. The whispers start immediately, rippling through the crowd like wind through dry leaves. Sorry I'm late, she announces, her voice clear and steady. I wouldn't miss my daughter-in-law's big moment. Ryan starts to rise, but Grace pulls him back down. I continue as if nothing's happened. Tonight marks the beginning of a new chapter in educational funding. Tell them, Amelia. Margaret walks closer, her hospital bracelet catching the light. Tell them about the real foundation of your wealth. My prepared speech crumples in my fist. Security. About how you orchestrated this whole charade. She's halfway to the podium now. About the shell companies? The insider trading? The room goes deadly silent. Liam appears at my elbow, whispering urgently, she's bluffing. But I see the folder in Margaret's hand, recognize the logo of the private investigator she hired. The same one who followed me to Liam's penthouse. Mrs. Carter, I say into the microphone, perhaps we should discuss this privately. Like you discussed buying control of my hospital privately? She reaches the stage. Or how you privately manipulated the stock of every company I invested in. Ryan stands now, moving toward us. Mother, that's enough. No. She opens the folder. Your wife isn't just a gold digger, Ryan. She's a fraud. And I can prove it. The room spins slightly. I see Grace's horrified face, Tommy's resigned expression, the hungry eyes of the society vultures ready to feast on my downfall. These documents, Margaret continues, show a pattern of illegal trading dating back to her first company. The wealth she's been flaunting? Built on fraud. That's impossible, Liam cuts in. I handled those deals myself. He stops, realizing too late what he's admitted. The whispers grow louder. Yes, Margaret smiles. You did. And now you're both implicated. My carefully constructed revenge crumbles like a house of cards. I look at Ryan, see the doubt creeping into his eyes. The SEC has copies of everything, Margaret announces to the room. They're very interested in the Carter Foundation's funding sources. The microphone feedback shrieks as I step back. Faces blur together, accusatory, triumphant, shocked. All my power, all my careful planning, undone by the one thing I never suspected Margaret would find. You want truth? My voice sounds strange, distant. Here's truth. I did everything you accused me of. The trading, the manipulation, all of it. Because people like you, Margaret, people born into privilege, never believed someone like me could succeed honestly. Amelia, Ryan warns, but I'm beyond warnings now. So yes, I broke laws. I cut corners. I became exactly what you always thought I was. I laugh, and it sounds like breaking glass. Congratulations, Margaret. You finally caught the gold digger you were looking for. Security's here, Liam murmurs. We need to leave. Now. Through the chaos, I see Grace crying, Tommy holding Margaret with something like pride, and Ryan standing absolutely still. Watching me with eyes I no longer recognize. I'm sorry, I whisper, though I'm not sure who I'm apologizing to anymore. As security approaches, I feel Margaret's triumph like a physical weight. She didn't just destroy my revenge, she proved herself right. Liam grabs my arm, pulling me toward the service exit. The last thing I see is Ryan, turning away as his mother's victory becomes my complete destruction. I wanted to prove Margaret wrong about who I was. Instead, I proved her right about who I'd become. The hotel suite feels like a prison cell, even with its luxury furnishings. I've been here for 3 hours when there's a knock at the door. Not Liam with more legal updates. Not the SEC agents who've been circling like vultures. Grace stands in the hallway, holding a manila envelope. Mom sent me, she says, stepping inside. To gloat? To deliver these. She hands me the envelope. The original documents. She's keeping copies, of course. I dump the contents onto the coffee table, years of financial records, trading patterns, corporate structures I'd thought were buried forever. Why? Because she wants to make a deal. The door opens again. Margaret walks in, still wearing Tommy's jacket over her hospital gown. She looks smaller somehow, more human, but her eyes are sharp as ever. Leave us, Grace. Grace hesitates, then squeezes my hand before going. The click of the door feels like a jail cell closing. Quite the performance tonight, Margaret says, settling into an armchair. You really had everyone fooled. Including Ryan. Like you fooled everyone with your convenient breakdown? I remain standing. The hospital stay was a nice touch. Oh, the breakdown was real. She smooths her gown. Finding out your daughter-in-law is actually a criminal mastermind can do that to a person. What do you want, Margaret? The same thing I've always wanted. She leans forward. My son's happiness. I laugh. By destroying his wife? By saving him from someone who never loved him enough to be honest. The words hit harder than any SEC investigation. You don't know anything about my love for Ryan. I know you loved winning more. She gestures at the scattered documents. Every move you made wasn't about proving your worth, it was about proving you could beat me. You started this war. And you became exactly what I accused you of being to win it. Her voice softens. We're more alike than you think, Amelia. The truth of it burns like acid. The deal, Margaret. What is it? Leave. Tonight. Sign over control of the foundation to Ryan, admit to the fraud, take the fall. I'll make sure Liam stays clear of any investigation. And if I refuse? Then we all burn together. She stands. Ryan, me, you, Liam, everyone loses everything. My phone buzzes, a text from Ryan. Are you still the woman I married? He'll never forgive you, I say. He'll heal. But if you stay, if you fight this, he'll spend years watching both of us destroy each other in court. She moves to the door. You have 1 hour to decide. After she leaves, I stare at the documents, at the evidence of every compromise, every shortcut, every decision that led me here. My phone buzzes again, Liam this time, SEC offering deal. Limited immunity for testimony against larger players. The irony hits me, Margaret and I both tried to protect Ryan in our own twisted ways. Both of us too proud, too certain of our own righteousness to see what we were becoming. I pick up my phone, typing quickly, I accept the deal. Not to Margaret. To the SEC. The door opens one final time. Ryan stands there, looking as exhausted as I feel. I got your message, he says. Which one? Both. He steps inside. The SEC agents and the one about still being the woman you were. And? I don't know anymore. He picks up one of the documents. But I know who you are right now, in this moment, matters more than who either of you tried to make each other be. I take the paper from him, adding it to the pile. I'm turning myself in. Full confession. Your mother, Liam, everyone else stays clear. That's not. The woman you married would have done the right thing from the start. I meet his eyes. Maybe I can be her again by doing it now. He doesn't try to stop me as I gather the documents. Doesn't offer false comfort or easy forgiveness. Just watches as I choose, finally, to end this war not with victory or defeat, but with truth. Sometimes winning means being the first to surrender. The visiting room at the minimum security facility smells like industrial cleaner and stale coffee. Margaret sits across from me, her perfect posture unchanged by the plastic chair. We stare at each other through the morning light, two generals surveying the battlefield after the war. The foundation's doing well, she says finally. Ryan's expanded the scholarship program. I know. I fold my hands on the table. Grace sends me the quarterly reports. She misses you. Margaret smooths her skirt, a nervous gesture I've never seen before. We all do, in our own ways. Even you? Especially me. She meets my eyes. It's quiet without a worthy opponent. I almost laugh at that. Almost. Is that why you're here? To reminisce about our little war? I'm here because it's time. She places a folder between us. The SEC has reviewed your cooperation. With my statement and Tommy's influence on the board. I don't want your help, Margaret. This isn't help. It's acknowledgement. She pushes the folder closer. We destroyed each other so completely that there's nothing left to fight over. I open the folder, early release recommendations, character statements, documentation of my complete cooperation. A path back to freedom, wrapped in Margaret Carter's precise handwriting. Why? Because you chose truth over victory. She leans back. In the end, you became better than both of us. The door opens. Ryan walks in, looking older in his suit and tie, the new foundation director's uniform. He carries a small potted plant, barely surviving in its plastic container. The garden at home needed thinning, he says, setting it between us. Thought you might want something green in here. Margaret stands, touching my shoulder as she passes, the first time she's ever initiated contact. I'll leave you too. After she's gone, Ryan takes her place. We sit in silence, watching the weak sunlight struggle through the plant's leaves. You could have taken her deal that night, he says. Could have run, started over somewhere else. And proved her right about everything? Instead, you proved her wrong by proving her right. He almost smiles. That's the kind of logic that got us here. I touch one of the plant's leaves. I thought revenge would feel different. More satisfying. And how does truth feel? Expensive. I look around the visiting room. But cleaner, somehow. He reaches across the table, taking my hand. His wedding ring catches the light. He's still wearing it, after everything. The foundation board meets next week, he says. They're reviewing applications for the new executive director position. Ryan. Someone with technical expertise. Financial background. A proven record of learning from mistakes. I withdraw my hand. I'm a convicted felon. You're someone who chose truth when lies would have been easier. He stands. The interview's next Thursday, if you're interested. Mom's vote counts double as board chair. My laugh echoes off the institutional walls. Now that's revenge. No. He touches the plant again. That's growth. After he leaves, I sit alone, watching shadows move across the table. Margaret and I had both been right about each other, and completely wrong. She'd seen the ruthlessness in me, the capacity for destruction. I'd seen the manipulation in her, the need for control. What neither of us had seen was the possibility of something beyond winning or losing. The guard appears to escort me back to my cell. On the table, the plant's leaves stretch toward the window, finding light in the most unlikely place. I leave the folder where it lies. Whatever comes next, freedom, redemption, reconciliation, will come on its own terms, not Margaret's or mine. Sometimes the best revenge isn't about destroying your enemy. Sometimes it's about becoming someone they never imagined you could be, someone you never imagined you could be. Even if that journey leads through a prison cell, a broken family, and a tiny plant reaching for the light. Especially then.
The small black device tumbled from beneath our bed, landing with a soft thud on the hardwood floor. At first, I thought it was just another lost charging cable or adapter, the kind that breeds in dark corners of every modern home. But as I picked it up, my stomach twisted into a knot. A wiretap. In our bedroom. Our sanctuary. I'm Iris. And until this moment, I thought I understood the rules of my new life as Nathan's wife. Keep the peace with his mother, Martha. Smile through her backhanded compliments. Pretend not to notice when she rearranges our furniture during her weekly visits. But this was different. Nathan? My voice cracked slightly. Could you come here for a minute? I heard his footsteps approaching. The familiar rhythm of his walk that usually brought me comfort now setting my nerves on edge. He appeared in the doorway, coffee mug in hand, his expression shifting from casual to concerned as he saw what I was holding. Where did you find that? His voice dropped to barely above a whisper. Under our bed, while I was looking for my earring. I held it up, watching his face carefully. Please tell me you put this here. Nathan set his mug down with deliberate slowness and closed the bedroom door. He moved closer, examining the device without touching it. Don't say anything else, he mouthed, then grabbed his phone and typed quickly. Mom's been acting strange lately. Wouldn't put it past her. The blood rushed to my face as fury and humiliation fought for dominance. I grabbed his phone and typed back, "How long have you suspected?" He shook his head, indicating he wasn't sure. Then he typed, "Play along. Let's plan a weekend trip. Loud enough for anyone listening." I wanted to scream. I wanted to storm over to Martha's house and demand answers. Instead, I forced a bright tone into my voice. You know what? We should take that weekend trip to the coast we've been talking about, just the two of us. Nathan caught on immediately. Great idea, honey. We could leave Friday after work, stay at that boutique hotel you've been eyeing. Perfect. I squeezed the wiretap until my knuckles turned white. We deserve some private time together. We spent the next 15 minutes having an artificially cheerful conversation about our fake weekend plans while typing real messages back and forth on his phone. With each passing minute, my anger grew deeper, colder. Martha had always been controlling, but this crossed every line. When we finally felt we'd said enough for our unseen audience, Nathan took the device and secured it in his desk drawer. He pulled me close, his arms warm and solid around me, but for the first time since our wedding I felt myself stiffen at his touch. "We'll handle this," he whispered against my hair. "I promise." But as I stood there in our violated bedroom, I wasn't sure I believed him. This wasn't just about privacy anymore. This was about power, about control, about Martha's refusal to let her son have a life separate from her. And now I had a choice to make. Either accept this invasion and live under her surveillance, or fight back. I pulled away from Nathan and met his eyes. "No more playing nice," I said quietly. "This ends now." He nodded, but I caught the flash of uncertainty in his expression. Of course, she was still his mother, but she had made a critical mistake in underestimating me. Martha wanted to know every detail of our lives. Fine. I'd give her a show she'd never forget. I picked up Nathan's phone one last time and typed, "We need to talk to Clara. She'll know what to do." The game was on, and Martha had no idea what she'd started. Clara stirred her coffee with calculated precision, her eyes never leaving my face. We sat in the back corner of Rosemary's cafe, far from any possibility of being overheard. Not that Martha could bug a public place. At least, I hoped not. "A wiretap?" Clara's voice was low, controlled, but I caught the dangerous edge in it. "In your bedroom? Nathan thinks she's been doing it for months." The coffee in front of me had gone cold, untouched. Every time I think about it, I feel sick. All those private conversations, all those intimate moments. And Nathan just, what? Suspected but didn't say anything? I flinched at the accusation in her tone. He says he wasn't sure, that she's always been intense about knowing everything in his life, but this is different. Different! Clara set her spoon down with a sharp clink. "Iris, this is criminal. This isn't just a controlling mother-in-law anymore. This is stalking." Before I could respond, my phone buzzed. Martha's name lit up the screen. "Dropping by with some homemade soup. Nathan mentioned you weren't feeling well." "Speaking of the devil," I muttered, showing Clara the message. "You never told her you were sick?" "No. But Nathan and I had that loud, fake conversation about me having a headache last night, for our invisible audience." The irony made me want to scream. "She's testing us, seeing if we found it." Clara leaned forward. "Then let's give her something to listen to. You're going back home now, right?" I nodded. "Perfect. Let her come over. But first, we need to make a stop." 20 minutes later, I walked into my house carrying a shopping bag from a local pharmacy. Right on cue, Martha's car pulled into the driveway. I made sure to rustle the bag loudly as I set it on the kitchen counter. The doorbell rang. I took a deep breath, remembering Clara's words. "Make her think she has the upper hand." "Martha," I forced a smile as I opened the door. "How thoughtful of you to bring soup." She swept past me, all designer perfume and perfectly coiffed hair. "Well, when Nathan mentioned you weren't feeling well, I just had to come. You know how worried I get about my family's health." "My family, not yours." "That's so kind." I accepted the container, letting her see my slightly trembling hands. "I was just picking up some things from the pharmacy, actually." Her eyes darted to the bag on the counter, exactly where I'd left it, the pregnancy test box visible through the semi-transparent plastic. "Oh?" Her voice lifted with barely concealed interest. "Nothing serious, I hope." "Just a few things I needed." I moved to put the soup away, deliberately leaving the pharmacy bag untouched. Martha hovered, straightening already straight pictures on my walls. "You know, dear, you really should let me know when you're not feeling well. I have so much experience with these things. And Nathan, well, he worries so much about you." I bet he does, when you're constantly in his ear about it. Actually, Martha, I paused, as if considering something. Since you're here, could I ask you something personal? She practically vibrated with anticipation. Of course, dear. When you were first married to Samuel, how did you know when you were ready? For children, I mean. The look that crossed her face was almost worth everything she'd put me through. Almost. Are you? She couldn't even finish the question. Oh, no, I laughed nervously. Not yet, just thinking about the future. Martha's hand found my arm, her grip just this side of too tight. Darling, there's no need to be nervous about such things. Family is everything, and I'll be right here to guide you through it all. I managed a weak smile thinking of the wiretap in Nathan's desk drawer. Yes, you'll be right here, listening to every private moment of our lives. Thank you, Martha. That means so much. After she left, I waited exactly 10 minutes before calling Clara. Well, she asked. She took the bait, hook, line, and sinker. I stared at the pregnancy test I'd never intended to use. Now we wait. And then we show her exactly what happens when you mess with someone's family. The old photo albums in Samuel's study told a story Martha never wanted me to see. While she was at her weekly bridge club, my father-in-law had quietly invited me over, leading me to these leather-bound volumes with trembling hands. She'll be furious if she knows I showed you these, Samuel said, his voice barely above a whisper. Even here, in his own home, he spoke as if walls had ears. I flipped through pages of Nathan's childhood, every milestone documented with military precision. But something felt off about the images. They're all posed. Martha had them taken professionally, every month like clockwork. Samuel's fingers drummed nervously on his desk. If the first shoot wasn't perfect, she'd schedule another, and another. A photo of 7-year-old Nathan in a sailing outfit caught my eye. His smile looked strained, eyes distant. Nathan never mentioned sailing. He hated it, seasick every time. But Martha's father had been a champion sailor, so... Samuel shrugged, the gesture heavy with years of acquiescence. I continued turning pages, seeing Nathan's life through Martha's carefully curated lens. Piano recitals, tennis tournaments, debate club. Each image more perfect than the last, each smile a little more forced. Then I found it. A candid photo, clearly taken without Martha's knowledge. Nathan, maybe 16, laughing with a girl I didn't recognize. They sat close on a park bench sharing headphones. Sarah Matthews, Samuel supplied, Nathan's first girlfriend. Martha made sure that ended quickly. How? She found out Sarah's father had filed for bankruptcy. Suddenly, the Matthews family was uninvited from all community events. Rumors started spreading. Within a month, Sarah's family moved away. My phone buzzed. Nathan, Mom's asking about baby names. What did you tell her? I ignored it, focusing on the next album. Nathan's college years. Fewer photos now, but more formal. More controlled. The wiretap wasn't the first time, was it? I asked Samuel. He wouldn't meet my eyes. She hired private investigators when he went to college, had his roommates report back to her. She said it was because she worried, but it was about control. My phone buzzed again. Martha this time. Darling, I found the most wonderful specialist. We should discuss your fertility options over lunch tomorrow. The pieces clicked into place. The wiretap, the sudden interest in my health, the constant presence in our lives. History was repeating itself. Samuel, I said carefully, what happened to Nathan's college girlfriend? The one in these photos? He closed the album abruptly. Catherine. She was studying medicine. Very bright. Very ambitious. What did Martha do? Nothing. That's what makes it worse. She just waited. Kept pushing Nathan toward law school, toward the family firm, kept reminding him about legacy, responsibility, family name. Catherine got into a residency program across the country. Martha made sure Nathan was too busy with law school applications to visit. My phone buzzed a third time. Nathan again. Mom's coming over. Says she's worried about you. I have to go, I said, standing quickly. Thank you for showing me these. Samuel caught my arm. Iris, be careful. Martha, she doesn't see what she does as wrong. She truly believes she's protecting her family. No, I said, pulling away. She believes she owns her family. There's a difference. I drove home in a daze, my mind racing. The pieces were all there, the pattern clear as day. Martha wasn't just trying to control our lives, she was recreating Nathan's entire childhood. And now, with her suspecting a pregnancy... Nathan was waiting when I got home. Where were you? Mum's been calling everyone worried sick. I know exactly what your mother's doing, I said, my voice steady despite my racing heart. And I know why. Iris? No, Nathan, this ends now. Either you help me stop her, or I'm gone. I won't let her do to our children what she did to you. His face went pale. What are you talking about? Ask your father about Sarah Matthews, I said, watching the colour drain further from his face. Or Catherine, or any of the other people your mother decided weren't good enough for her perfect family portrait. The front door opened before he could respond. Martha's voice rang out, cheerful and sharp as a knife. There you are, darling, I brought prenatal vitamins, just in case. The prenatal vitamins sat on my kitchen counter like a declaration of war. Martha had arranged them in a neat row, labels facing forward, a silent army of plastic bottles marking her territory. I hadn't touched them in 3 days. Nathan paced behind me, his reflection fractured in the window above the sink. We need to tell her. Tell her what? I kept my voice neutral, watching a cardinal land on our bird feeder. That we found her bug? That we know about Sarah and Catherine? Or that I'm not actually pregnant? All of it. He stopped pacing. She's already called 3 fertility specialists. Of course she has. The cardinal flew away as I turned to face him. Just like she called the private investigators in college. Just like she'll call them again when we actually have children. Nathan flinched. That's not fair, isn't it? I picked up one of the vitamin bottles, reading the label without really seeing it. Your father showed me the photos, Nathan. Every perfectly staged moment of your life. Is that what you want for our kids? Before he could answer, the doorbell rang. Through the frosted glass, I recognized Clara's silhouette, but when Nathan opened the door, Martha stood beside her. Look who I ran into in the driveway. Martha's voice dripped honey. Clara was just telling me about a wonderful fertility clinic her cousin used. Clara's eyes met mine, wide with warning. She'd never mentioned having a cousin with fertility issues. Martha, I said carefully, Clara and I have a lunch date. Oh, perfect. I'll join you both. We have so much to discuss about your future. The word future hung in the air like smoke. I watched Clara's hand tighten on her purse strap, saw Nathan's shoulders tense. Actually, Clara said, we were going to discuss work projects. Boring IT stuff. Martha's smile didn't waver. Nonsense. You shouldn't be stressing about work in your condition, Iris, not when there are so many important decisions to make. My condition? The vitamin bottle was still in my hand. I set it down before I could throw it. Well, given the pregnancy test I saw. Martha stepped closer, lowering her voice conspiratorially. Though I must say, you really should see a doctor soon. At your age, every precaution. Mother, Nathan's voice cracked like a whip, but Martha wasn't finished. I've already spoken to Dr. Reynolds. He's very discreet about these matters, especially given the family's position in the community. The family's position? Clara echoed, her tone dangerous. Of course. Martha patted my arm. We can't have any complications. Becoming public knowledge. Not like poor Catherine's situation. The room went silent. Nathan's face drained of colour. What situation? I asked, though my stomach was already knotting. Martha's expression shifted just for a moment before the perfect smile returned. Oh, did Nathan never mention? Such a shame about her miscarriage. Right before she moved away for her residency, too. These things happen when young women put career before family. The cardinal returned to the feeder outside, a flash of red in my peripheral vision. I thought of Catherine, young and ambitious, her dreams of becoming a doctor. I thought of the carefully staged photos, the forced smiles, the lives Martha had shaped and broken. Get out! My voice was steady, surprising even me. Excuse me? Get out of my house. I stepped forward, forcing her back toward the door. Get out of my marriage. Get out of our lives. Nathan, Martha appealed to her son. Surely you won't let her. You knew? Nathan's voice was hollow. About Catherine's baby, our baby. Martha's mask cracked just slightly. I did what was necessary. For your future. Get out, Nathan echoed, moving to stand beside me. Now. After she left, Clara hugged me tight while Nathan disappeared into his study. When I found him later, he was holding an old photograph, him and Catherine on graduation day, young and in love and unaware of what was coming. We need to find her, I said softly. He looked up, his eyes red. Why? Because your mother's right about one thing. I touched my stomach, thinking of the future we'd planned. Family is everything, just not the way she thinks. Catherine's social media trail ended abruptly 7 years ago. No posts, no updates, nothing after her move across the country. But Clara, bless her IT expertise, had found something else. A medical practice in Seattle under the name Catherine Chen Martinez. You're sure it's her? Nathan stood behind my desk chair, staring at the screen. Same medical school, same graduation year. I clicked through the practice's website. And look, her bio mentions growing up in Connecticut. Nathan's hand tightened on my shoulder. The wedding ring on his finger caught the light from my monitor, a silent reminder of everything Martha had orchestrated. We can't just show up at her office, he said. No. I opened my email. But we can send a message. The cursor blinked accusingly as I tried to find the right words. Dear Catherine, remember me. I'm the woman who married the man whose mother destroyed your life. Want to help us take her down? My phone buzzed. Martha, darling, I've been thinking about our little misunderstanding. Let's have dinner tonight. Just us girls. Another buzz. Martha again. After all, stress isn't good for the baby. She's not giving up, I muttered, showing Nathan the messages. She never does. He ran a hand through his hair. Maybe we should just confront her directly. Not yet. I turned back to the email draft. We need leverage. Something concrete. Like what? Like proof she knew about Catherine's pregnancy. Like evidence she's been stalking all of us for years. I started typing. Like whatever else she's hiding. The office door opened. Clara rushed in, face flushed. You need to see this. She handed me her tablet. On screen was a legal document. Old, but clearly legible. A restraining order filed 15 years ago by someone named Rebecca Walsh against Martha. Who's Rebecca Walsh? I asked. Nathan's sharp intake of breath answered before Clara could. Dad's first fiancée. What? Before Mum. I found an old photo once, but Mother said she'd died in a car accident before the wedding. Clara swiped to another document. Not dead, just scared away. According to this, Martha stalked her for months, threatened her family. Rebecca finally fled to Canada. My phone buzzed again. Martha, I'm coming over. We need to talk about your future. She's on her way here, I said, standing. Now. Nathan moved toward the door. I'll handle it. No. I caught his arm. This ends today, but not like this. Not with her controlling the narrative again. I turned to Clara. Can you find Rebecca? She nodded. Already working on it. Good. I walked to my desk drawer and pulled out the wiretap device. Because Martha's not the only one who can record conversations. Nathan's eyes widened. Iris. Your mother wants to talk about my future. I slipped the device into my pocket. Let's talk about her past instead. Clara grabbed my hand. Be careful. She's dangerous when cornered. So am I. I squeezed her hand back. Nathan, call your father. Get him here. He needs to hear this too. The doorbell rang, its cheerful chime at odds with the tension in the room. Through the window, I saw Martha's Mercedes in our driveway gleaming like a predator. Ready? I asked Nathan. He looked at the tablet with Rebecca's restraining order. then at the wedding photo on my desk, us smiling, unaware of the shadows lurking behind that perfect day. Catherine lost our baby, he said quietly. Rebecca lost her future. How many others? No more, I promised, heading for the door. It stops here. Martha's voice drifted up from downstairs, calling my name with honeyed concern. I touched my pocket, feeling the wiretap device press against my hip. The same technology she'd used to control her family would now expose her true nature. Sometimes I thought, the best revenge isn't about destroying someone. It's about forcing them to face their own reflection. I started down the stairs, Nathan and Clara behind me, toward the woman who thought she owned our lives. Time to show Martha what real family loyalty looks like. Martha sat in our living room like a queen on her throne, surrounded by the life she'd tried to orchestrate. Samuel stood by the fireplace, his face ashen after hearing about Rebecca. Nathan hadn't moved from his position by the window since Clara showed us the last piece of evidence, hospital records from Catherine's miscarriage, with Martha's signature on the visitor log. Really, Iris, Martha sighed, smoothing her silk blouse. All this drama over a simple misunderstanding. Misunderstanding? The recording device felt heavy in my pocket, like Rebecca Walsh was a misunderstanding. Martha's smile flickered. Ancient history. Or Catherine Chen? I stepped closer. Was her miscarriage just a misunderstanding too? Martha, Samuel's voice cracked. Tell me you didn't. Everything I did was for this family. Martha's hands clasped tightly in her lap. Rebecca would have ruined you, Samuel. And Catherine, a resident's salary could never have given Nathan the life he deserved. The life I deserved? Nathan turned from the window. Or the life you wanted for me. They're the same thing, darling. Martha stood, reaching for him. Everything I've done has been for you. For us. Including the wiretap? I pulled the device from my pocket. For a moment, silence filled the room. Then Martha laughed, the sound brittle as breaking glass. Oh, that silly thing. Just a mother's concern. You've been acting so strange lately, dear. The pregnancy test, the secretive meetings with Clara. There is no pregnancy, I said quietly. We staged that to prove you were spying on us. Martha's smile turned razor sharp. No baby? Well, that's disappointing. Though not surprising given your age and career focus. Don't, Nathan stepped between us. You don't get to judge her. Judge? Martha's voice rose. I'm trying to protect you, both of you. This marriage, this family, it's all I have left. Left from what? Samuel moved closer. What happened to you, Martha? What happened? She whirled on him. You want to know what happened? My mother watched my father destroy our family with his free spirit and artistic dreams. We lost everything. I swore that would never happen to my children. So instead you destroyed other families? I pressed play on my phone. Martha's voice filled the room, threatening Rebecca's younger sister's college admission unless she left town. Where did you get that? Martha's face went white. Rebecca kept everything. Clara spoke from the doorway. She's on her way here now. So is Catherine. Martha moved faster than I expected. Her hand caught my wrist, twisting until I dropped the phone. It clattered across the floor as she grabbed my shoulders. You ungrateful little... Nathan pulled her back, but she was already laughing again, high and desperate. You think you've won? That exposing old secrets changes anything? I built this family. I protected it. Without me, you're nothing. No, Mother. Nathan's voice was steady. Without you, we're free. The doorbell rang. Through the window, I saw 2 cars pulling into our driveway. Martha saw them too, her face contorted. I won't let you destroy everything I've built. She reached into her purse, pulling out a thick envelope. You want to talk about secrets? Let's talk about what I found in Iris's background check. My heart stopped. The adoption records I'd sealed years ago. The brother I'd lost to the foster system. The choices I'd made to survive. Go ahead, I said, though my voice shook. Show everyone who you really are. Martha opened the envelope, but Samuel snatched it from her hands. Without looking inside, he walked to the fireplace and threw it in. "Enough," he said quietly. "No more secrets, no more control." The doorbell rang again. Martha looked from the burning envelope to the door, then to Nathan. For the first time, I saw real fear in her eyes. "Nathan," she whispered, "please, everything I did was for you." "No," he took my hand. "Everything you did was for yourself." I squeezed his hand as Clara opened the front door. The past was walking in, and Martha would finally face the consequences of her actions. But as I watched her sink into the chair, suddenly small and old, I realized revenge wasn't what I wanted anymore. I wanted freedom. And sometimes freedom means letting go of the power others hold over you, even when they're family. Especially when they're family. Rebecca Walsh entered first, her silver hair and straight spine a testament to the years she'd survived. Catherine followed, younger but carrying the same weight of past wounds. The room crackled with unspoken accusations as they faced Martha. "Hello, Martha." Rebecca's voice carried no tremor. "It's been 15 years. Martha's fingers dug into the armchair. "You shouldn't have come." "Because I'm dead?" Rebecca's laugh held no humor. "That's what you told everyone, isn't it? A tragic car accident before the wedding?" Catherine moved closer, her doctor's coat still on from her flight. "Did you tell them about my accident too? The stairs at the hospital that mysteriously lost their safety rail?" "I never—" Martha started. "Save it." Catherine pulled out a folder. "I kept the maintenance records, the inspection reports, everything." My phone buzzed in my pocket, a text from Clara. "Pregnancy test positive. 3 weeks." The world tilted slightly. I hadn't told anyone I was late, hadn't dared hope. But now, what is that? Martha's eyes fixed on Catherine's folder. More lies? Truth. Catherine placed the documents on the coffee table. Like the truth about why I lost my baby. Stress, they said. Excessive stress from anonymous threats. Stalking. Career sabotage. Samuel picked up the papers, his hands shaking. The hospital board received anonymous complaints about Catherine's competency. That was you? I protected this family. Martha stood, her composure cracking. Rebecca would have dragged you into bankruptcy with her artist dreams. Catherine would have taken Nathan across the country, away from his legacy. I couldn't let that happen. I couldn't lose another... She stopped abruptly. "Another what?" Nathan asked. Martha sank back into her chair. "Your sister, before you were born. She chose her own path, married someone inappropriate. I never saw her again." The room went silent. Samuel's face drained of colour. "Claire," he whispered, "you told me she died in college." "She died to us!" Martha's voice rose hysterically. "She chose him over family, over everything we built. I wouldn't let that happen again. I couldn't." My phone felt heavy in my pocket, new life growing inside me, while around me lay the wreckage of lives Martha had destroyed to protect her vision of family. "I'm pregnant," I said quietly. Martha's head snapped up. "What?" "Actually pregnant this time." I met her gaze. "And you will never control this child's life the way you controlled Nathan's. Never." "You can't..." "She can." Nathan moved to stand beside me. "We all can. No more secrets. No more control. It ends today." Martha looked around the room, at Rebecca's straight spine, Catherine's steady hands, Samuel's grief-stricken face. Her carefully constructed world was crumbling. "Claire's alive?" Samuel's voice broke. "All these years." "I can find her," Clara offered from the doorway. "I found Rebecca and Catherine." Martha lunged for her purse again, but this time I was faster. I grabbed it, dumping the contents onto the coffee table. Photos spilled out. Surveillance photos of all of us. Of Nathan and Catherine in college. Of Rebecca before she fled. Of me at doctor's appointments Martha shouldn't have known about. "You see?" Martha's voice turned pleading. "Everything I did was for love. To protect what's mine." Love doesn't destroy, Catherine said softly. It doesn't stalk or threaten or manipulate. That's not love, Martha. That's possession. Get help, Nathan told his mother. Real help. Or you'll never meet your grandchild. Martha's face crumpled. For a moment, I saw past the monster to the frightened woman beneath, terrified of losing control, of being abandoned, of watching her family choose their own paths. I don't know how to let go, she whispered. Start by telling the truth, Samuel said. About everything. About Claire. Martha looked at me, then at my still flat stomach where her grandchild grew. The future she couldn't control. The legacy she couldn't shape. Claire, she said finally, lives in Vancouver. It wasn't redemption. It wasn't even really surrender. But as Samuel reached for his phone with trembling hands, as Nathan pulled me close, as Rebecca and Catherine exchanged looks of quiet victory, I realized it was something else. A beginning. The nursery walls remained unpainted, but I liked them that way. Clean slate, fresh start. Through the window, autumn leaves scattered across our front lawn, and somewhere in the distance a cardinal sang. No pink, Nathan said from the doorway. Or blue. Definitely not. I ran my hand over my growing belly. Though your mother sent another box of gender-specific clothes this morning. He tensed slightly, but I shook my head. It's okay. She's trying. The weekly therapy sessions were Martha's idea, surprisingly. After Claire arrived from Vancouver, all wild hair and artist's paint-stained fingers, so different from Martha's polished perfection, something in Martha finally cracked. Or maybe, finally healed. Dad called, Nathan said, moving to stand beside me. Claire's showing her work at the gallery downtown next month. Is Martha going? She asked if we'd go with her. The old Martha would have tried to prevent the show entirely. Would have found ways to sabotage Claire's moment to protect the family image. The new Martha. Well, she was learning. Like we all were. My phone buzzed. Catherine. Ultrasound looks perfect. See you next week. Having Nathan's ex as my obstetrician raised eyebrows, but it felt right. Healing comes in strange ways sometimes. Rebecca sent this. Nathan held up his phone, showing a photo of a handmade baby blanket. Says it's tradition in her family. The family she was supposed to join before your mother intervened. Yeah. He wrapped his arms around me from behind. Funny how things work out. Through the window, I watched Clara's car pull into our driveway. She'd been helping Samuel organize Claire's gallery opening, and somewhere along the way, they'd developed an unexpected friendship. The wounded helping the wounded heal. Do you ever wonder, I asked, if we did the right thing, exposing everything? As opposed to what? Revenge? I wanted to destroy her at first, to make her suffer like she made others suffer. Nathan was quiet for a moment. But that wouldn't have fixed anything. No. I touched the wall, imagining the colours we might choose. It would have just continued the cycle. Clara's voice drifted up from downstairs along with Samuel's deeper tones and Martha's. My hand instinctively went to my belly, an old protective gesture. We can ask her to leave, Nathan offered. No. I turned to face him. But we maintain our boundaries. Trust is earned, not given. Downstairs, Martha's laugh mingled with Claire's, tentative, awkward, but real. The sound of two people learning to exist in the same space without power plays or manipulation. I found another wiretap yesterday, I said quietly. Nathan stiffened. Where? In the box of baby clothes. But Martha didn't put it there. I pulled the device from my pocket. It's government issue. Apparently my brother's adoption records weren't as sealed as I thought. His eyes widened. You mean Clara's running traces now? We might actually find him. Are you sure you want to? After everything with Martha? That's why I'm sure. I placed the wiretap on the windowsill where the sun caught it. Family secrets don't protect anyone. They just breed more secrets. Below, car doors slammed. Rebecca had arrived with more gallery plans. Soon the house would be full of voices. Claire and Samuel discussing art, Martha carefully measuring her words, Catherine dropping off ultrasound photos, Clara with her latest findings. A broken family slowly rebuilding, not perfect, not even close, but real. "We should paint the nursery green," Nathan said suddenly, "like new leaves." I smiled, understanding what he meant. New growth, new beginnings. The cardinal outside took flight, a flash of red against the pale sky. I thought of Martha, of revenge and redemption, of the fine line between protecting family and controlling it, of the child growing inside me who would never know the weight of secrets we'd carried. "Green," I agreed. "But first, let's open some windows. This room needs air." Nathan unlatched the window, letting in the autumn breeze. Sometimes the best revenge isn't revenge at all. Sometimes it's simply opening windows and letting the truth blow through, clearing out the shadows where secrets hide. Even if that truth comes with a cardinal's warning song.
The turkey was perfect. I'd spent 6 hours on it, basting every 30 minutes, monitoring the temperature like a surgeon watching vital signs. Even my father, who taught me everything I know about cooking, would have been proud. Which is why I couldn't process what I was hearing through my phone. "You've humiliated this entire family, Brielle. The turkey was inedible, simply inedible." Diana's voice crackled with that particular brand of venom she reserved just for me. "What are you talking about? I followed Grandmother Evelyn's recipe exactly. I had to throw the whole thing away. Do you know how embarrassing it is to explain to our guests why we're serving ham at Thanksgiving? This is exactly why I told Adam you weren't ready to host." My fingers gripped the kitchen counter until my knuckles went white. "I'm Brielle, and for 3 years I've been trying to prove myself worthy of the Collins family name. But apparently, marrying Adam wasn't enough. Neither was leaving my career in product development to help modernize their restaurant empire's brand identity. And now, according to my mother-in-law, I couldn't even cook a turkey. Diana, I tested that recipe twice last week. The turkey was what, dear? Because I had to watch James's business partners pick at dry, tasteless meat while trying not to grimace. Emily had to run to the store for ham. Ham? At Thanksgiving? I closed my eyes, remembering how proud I'd felt when I'd pulled that golden brown masterpiece from the oven. The skin had crackled perfectly, the meat practically falling off the bone. I'd even taken photos. The photos. "Diana, I have pictures of the turkey before I left it in your kitchen. Would you like to see them?" A pause. Brief, but telling. "Don't be ridiculous. I disposed of that disaster hours ago. The point is, you've embarrassed us all, and quite frankly, I'm concerned about your place in this family, if you can't handle even the most basic traditions." My free hand found my phone's camera roll. There it was. My turkey in all its glory, documented from every angle. Something wasn't adding up. "Where's Adam?" I asked, keeping my voice steady. "He's busy damage controlling your mess, naturally. Listen, dear, perhaps it's best if you skip the Christmas celebration. Give everyone some time to forget this incident." The pieces clicked together like a sinister puzzle. Diana had been trying to edge me out since day one. But this was a new low. "Actually," I said, "I think I'll call Emily right now. I'd love to hear about her emergency ham run." Another pause, longer this time. "There's no need to bother Emily. She's busy damage controlling my mess? Funny, I just got a text from her 5 minutes ago. She's at her boyfriend's family dinner in Boston. Has been all day." The silence on the other end of the line was deafening. "You threw away a perfectly good turkey, didn't you, Diana? Just to make me look bad. How dare you accuse me?" "Save it," I cut in, surprising myself with the ice in my voice. "I'm going to find out exactly what happened to my turkey. And when I do, everyone's going to know what you did, including Adam." "Nobody will believe you over me," Diana hissed. "I've been part of this family for 35 years. You're just the girl who got lucky with my son." I looked at the photos again, then at the recipe card my father had given me, the one he'd used in his restaurant for 20 years. "We'll see about that," I said, and hung up. My hands were shaking as I set down the phone. 3 years of snide comments, backhanded compliments, and subtle undermining had led to this moment. Diana had finally overplayed her hand, and now I had proof. The question was, what was I going to do with it? I opened my contacts and scrolled to Emily's name. It was time to find out just how many other family members were tired of Diana's games. One way or another, this turkey scandal was about to blow up in her face. Adam found me in our kitchen at midnight, staring at the photos on my phone. He dropped his briefcase by the door and loosened his tie, exhaustion etched across his face. "Mum called," he said, and my stomach clenched. "She's pretty upset." "Is she?" I swiped through the photos again. "Did she mention throwing away my perfectly good turkey?" He sighed, running a hand through his hair. "Look, I know she can be difficult." "Difficult?" I set my phone down harder than necessary. "She sabotaged Thanksgiving dinner just to make me look bad. She lied about Emily getting ham. Bree, please." Adam's voice carried that familiar note of defeat. "Maybe there was a misunderstanding. You know how she gets about family traditions." I studied my husband's face, the way he couldn't quite meet my eyes, the slight downturn of his mouth. 3 years of marriage, and still he defaulted to peacekeeping. "Show me the garbage," I said. "What?" "If my turkey was so terrible that she had to throw it away, show me the evidence." "Right now." Adam shifted uncomfortably. The cleaning service already came. "How convenient." I pulled up Emily's text and held it out. "Read this." His eyes scanned the message. "Having dinner with Jake's family in Boston. Hope your turkey turned out as amazing as the test runs. Send pics." "She's lying, Adam. Your mother is lying, and you know it." He leaned against the counter, shoulders slumping. "What do you want me to do? Accuse my own mother of what? Of systematically trying to drive me out of this family? Of undermining everything I do?" My voice cracked. "Of making me feel like I'll never be good enough for her precious son?" The silence stretched between us, heavy with unspoken words. Finally, Adam moved closer, reaching for my hand. "You are good enough," he said softly. "More than good enough. But if we confront her directly, she'll just deny everything. You know how she operates." "So we do nothing. Let her keep playing these games?" "We pick our battles. Keep the peace until what?" I pulled away from him. "Until she succeeds in convincing everyone I'm incompetent. Until she drives us apart." My phone buzzed. A message from James Collins, my father-in-law. "Diana mentioned concerns about today. Let's discuss over lunch tomorrow. 1 p.m., the Capitol Grill." Adam read the message over my shoulder and swore under his breath. "She's already spinning this her way." "Good," I said, surprising us both. "Let her dig herself deeper." "Bree." "No, think about it. Your father's not stupid. He built an empire by reading people. If Diana's lying about this, what else has she lied about?" Adam's expression shifted, a flash of recognition crossing his face. "The design proposals," he said slowly. "The ones that disappeared from your desk last month. And the client meeting she scheduled over our anniversary dinner. The misplaced invitation to Grandmother Evelyn's birthday." We looked at each other, really looked, as 3 years of accidents and misunderstandings crystallized into something darker. "I have the photos," I said. "I have Emily's text. And tomorrow, I'll have lunch with your father." Adam touched my cheek, his fingers trembling slightly. "Be careful. Mum's got 30 years of influence behind her. If you're going to expose her—" "I need proof," I finished. "Undeniable evidence that shows everyone who she really is." He nodded, then pulled me close. "Whatever you decide to do," he whispered against my hair, "I'm with you. No more peacekeeping." I held him tight, breathing in his familiar scent, feeling the steady beat of his heart against mine. For the first time since Diana's call, hope flickered in my chest. But as I thought about tomorrow's lunch, another emotion surfaced. Something colder, more calculated. Diana wanted to play games. Fine. But she'd forgotten something crucial. Before joining the Collins family business, I'd spent years in product development. I knew how to document everything, build a case, and present evidence that no one could ignore. The game was about to change. The Capitol Grille's private dining room felt like a trap. James Collins sat across from me, his usual commanding presence softened by genuine concern. Between us, an untouched plate of Wagyu beef grew cold. "Diana's worried about you, Brielle," he said, dabbing his mouth with a napkin. "She thinks the pressure of joining the family business might be affecting your judgment." I set down my water glass carefully. "Did she mention the turkey?" "She did." He leaned forward. "But we both know this isn't about a turkey." Before I could respond, the door opened. Diana glided in, her Hermes scarf perfectly arranged, her smile razor-sharp. "I hope you don't mind me joining," she said, taking the seat beside James. "I felt we should discuss this as a family." My phone buzzed in my lap, a text from Adam. Mum just left the office, said she had an emergency. I slipped the phone back into my pocket, watching Diana pour herself water with practiced grace. "Actually," I said, "I'm glad you're here. We should talk about the design proposals that went missing last month." Diana's hand trembled slightly as she set down the water pitcher. "Ancient history, dear. We found them eventually." After the deadline passed, I turned to James. "Did you know they were in Diana's desk the whole time? Emily saw them there when she was looking for stamps." "That's absurd," Diana cut in. "Emily never..." "Never what? Never goes in your office or never tells the truth?" I pulled out my phone, pulled up the photos of the turkey. "Like how you told everyone she bought ham on Thanksgiving when she was actually in Boston?" James frowned, looking between us. "Diana?" "James, surely you're not going to believe these ridiculous accusations." But her voice had lost its smooth edge. "Brielle's clearly..." The dining room door opened again. Emily stood there, still in her chef's whites from the restaurant kitchen. "Sorry I'm late. Brielle asked me to join." Diana's face went pale. "This is a private family matter." "I am family," Emily said, sliding into the chair next to me. "And I have something to show Uncle James." She pulled out her phone, started playing a video. Diana's voice filled the room. Of course I threw it away. That little upstart thinks she can take my place. James actually listens to her design ideas. My design ideas weren't good enough, but hers. A bitter laugh. "Well, we'll see how long she lasts when everyone thinks she can't even cook a basic turkey." The silence that followed was deafening. James stared at his wife of 35 years like he was seeing a stranger. "You recorded me." Diana's voice shook with rage. "You ungrateful little..." "I record everything in the kitchen," Emily said quietly. "Restaurant policy. You know that, Aunt Diana. You helped write the employee handbook." I watched Diana's carefully constructed world start to crack. She turned to James, reaching for his hand. "Darling, you have to understand." "Understand what?" His voice was ice. "That you've been systematically trying to undermine the woman our son loves. That you'd sabotage our family business just to maintain control. I built this family." Diana's composure shattered. "I gave up my career for you, for all of this. And now she comes in with her fresh ideas and her perfect cooking and her..." She spat the words. "Working-class background, and suddenly I'm supposed to just step aside." "No one asked you to step aside," I said, surprising myself with how calm I felt. "You did that yourself, with every lie, every manipulation, every attempt to make me feel worthless." James stood up, straightening his suit jacket. "Emily, please send that video to my office." "Brielle, I believe we owe you an apology. Several, in fact." He looked at his wife. "Diana, we'll discuss this at home, in detail." Diana's face contorted. "You're choosing her side. After everything I'm choosing the truth," he said simply. "Something you might want to try sometime." As they left, Emily squeezed my hand under the table. "You okay?" I watched Diana's rigid back disappear through the door, thinking about all the carefully planned moves that had led to this moment. The satisfaction I'd expected to feel was there, but it was hollow, tainted by something else, something that felt dangerously like Diana's own bitterness. I don't know, I answered honestly, but I think this is just the beginning. The Collins family estate loomed before me, its windows dark except for one, Diana's study. I sat in my car, watching her shadow move across the curtains, remembering Emily's words from lunch. She's not done. This is when she's most dangerous. My phone lit up with a text from my father. Got your message. Coming tomorrow. Some things you need to know. The front door opened, spilling light onto the driveway. Diana emerged, carrying a box to her car. Even at this distance, I recognized my design portfolios, the ones she'd claimed were accidentally shredded last month. I stepped out of my car. Need help with that? She froze, then straightened her spine. Enjoying your little victory, are you? Those are my designs. Correction, they're company property. She placed the box in her trunk. And since James has temporarily relieved me of my duties, I'm simply organizing things. You mean destroying evidence? Her laugh was brittle. Evidence, please. You have no idea what evidence really looks like. She pulled an envelope from her jacket. Remember when you first joined the company? That brilliant restaurant redesign concept you presented. My stomach dropped. What about it? Funny thing about intellectual property, it's all about who documents it first. She held up the envelope. Would you like to see the dated designs I submitted to the patent office 6 months before you joined us? Amazing how similar they are to yours. That's impossible. I developed that concept. And now you're going to be exposed as a fraud. Her smile was vicious. I wonder how James will feel about his daughter-in-law stealing company designs. How will Adam react when his precious wife is revealed as a cheat? My hands shook. No one will believe you. Everyone will believe the paperwork, the timestamps, the digital trail I've carefully created. She closed her trunk. You thought you could destroy me? Darling, I've been playing this game since before you were born. Heavy footsteps crunched on gravel. Adam appeared from the shadows. Is that why you had me handle all the patent submissions when I first started, Mum? So you'd know exactly how to fake the documentation? Diana's composure cracked. Adam, I kept copies of everything, he continued, his voice eerily calm, including the original submission dates. Did you really think I wouldn't protect my wife? I'm protecting this family. Diana's voice rose. She's changing everything. The company, you, all of it. Someone had to stop her. The only one who needs stopping is you. Adam moved beside me, his hand finding mine. Dad's waiting for those files in his study, all of them. Diana's face contorted. You choose her over your own mother. No, he said quietly. I'm choosing what's right, something you taught me once upon a time. She got into her car without another word, the engine roaring to life. As she sped away, I sagged against Adam. How long have you known? I asked. About the patents, since she first started acting strange about your designs. I didn't want to believe it, but... He pulled me closer. I started documenting everything after that, just in case. My phone buzzed again, another text from my father. Diana tried to buy my restaurant 5 years ago, threatened to destroy it when I refused. Keep your guard up. The pieces clicked together. Diana's obsession with control, her failed design career, her desperate need to maintain power. She hadn't just been trying to push me out, she'd been preparing for this fight long before I entered the picture. We need to tell your father everything, I said, not just about the patents. Adam nodded, but his expression was troubled. She's not going to stop, is she? I thought about Diana's calculated smile, the years of manipulation revealed in those few minutes. The woman had turned sabotage into an art form, and I'd just become her masterpiece project. No, I replied, she's not. But neither am I. We walked toward the house, where James waited, with 30 years of his own suspicions. It was time to unravel Diana's web, thread by careful thread. But as we climbed the steps, I couldn't shake the feeling that we were walking into exactly the kind of chaos she thrived on. The game had changed, but so had the players, and I was done playing defense. My father arrived at our house carrying a worn leather briefcase I hadn't seen since his restaurant days. Adam watched from the kitchen doorway as Dad spread documents across our dining table. 5 years ago, he said, sliding over a letter with Diana's signature, she offered to buy Thompson's, said she'd modernize it, make it part of the Collins empire. You never told me, I said, scanning the aggressive acquisition proposal, because what came after was worse. He pulled out more papers, health department complaints, anonymous reviews, supplier cancellations. All fabricated, all traced back to shell companies she controlled. Nearly destroyed everything I'd built. Adam's knuckles went white against the doorframe. Why would she... Control, my father said simply. Your mother doesn't just want influence, son. She wants to own everything that threatens her. The doorbell rang. Through the window I saw Emily's car in our driveway, and beside it, an unfamiliar Mercedes. That'll be Grandmother Evelyn, Adam said. I called her. The family matriarch entered like a queen, Emily trailing behind her. Evelyn's eyes fixed on the papers covering our table, then moved to my father. Marcus Thompson, she said. It's been too long. Dad straightened. Mrs. Collins. Please, it's Evelyn. She settled into a chair, her presence filling the room. I believe we share a common problem. Emily pulled out her phone, played a new recording. Diana's voice filled the room. Once I release those forged patents, she'll never work in design again. James will have no choice but to fire her. The family will disown her. When was this? I asked. This morning, Emily said. She was talking to her lawyer. Evelyn's expression hardened. 35 years ago, Diana presented James with designs she claimed were hers. I knew they weren't. I'd seen the original artist's work in Paris. But I stayed quiet, hoping she'd prove herself worthy of my son in other ways. She shook her head. I've been paying for that silence ever since. My hands trembled as I gathered the documents. She's going to release the fake patents at the Christmas party next week, in front of everyone. Yes, Evelyn said, but we'll be ready. Adam moved behind my chair, his hand on my shoulder. How? Because, my father pulled out one final document. I kept everything from when she tried to destroy my restaurant, including emails she didn't know could be traced. Emily leaned forward. And I have recordings going back months. The kitchen cameras catch everything. I have the original patent paperwork, Adam added. And I, Evelyn said, have 35 years of carefully documented lies, including proof about those Paris designs. The weight of it all, the evidence, the years of manipulation, the carefully constructed plan for revenge, suddenly felt suffocating. This will destroy her, I whispered. She's trying to destroy you, Emily reminded me. I know, but... I stood up, pacing. What if we're becoming just like her, playing these games, plotting revenge? There's a difference, my father said quietly, between revenge and justice. Is there? I turned to Adam. Your mother is horrible, but she's still your mother. Can you really do this to her? Adam's face was torn between pain and determination. She's doing this to herself. Has been for years. Evelyn rose, her movements deliberate. Diana will be at the Christmas party tomorrow night, ready to humiliate you in front of everyone we know. The question isn't whether we can do this to her. It's whether we can let her continue destroying lives. My phone buzzed. A text from James. Diana's lawyer just contacted me about patent violations. Meeting tomorrow morning. Need you there. The trap was closing, but I wasn't sure anymore who was caught in it. Diana or all of us. Okay, I said finally. But we do this right. Not for revenge, but for truth. And... I looked at Adam, saw the conflict in his eyes. We give her one chance to confess, one chance to stop this before it goes too far. Evelyn nodded slowly. Tomorrow night, then. One way or another, this ends. We spent the next hour planning, each person adding their piece to the puzzle. But as I watched these people, I loved plotting Diana's downfall. I couldn't shake the feeling that we were crossing a line, one we might never be able to uncross. The Collins family Christmas party sparkled with false cheer. I watched Diana work the room, her silver dress catching the light as she moved from group to group, whispering, smiling, poisoning the well before I could even speak. "She's already shown them the patents," Emily murmured, appearing at my elbow with 2 champagne flutes. "Half the board members won't even look at you." I took the champagne but didn't drink. "Where's Adam?" "Still trying to reach his father. Diana's lawyers got to him first this morning." Across the room, Diana caught my eye and raised her glass in mock salute. The folder tucked under her arm, the one containing her fabricated evidence, seemed to pulse like a bomb waiting to detonate. "It's time," Evelyn said, joining us. Before she... The room fell silent as James Collins stepped onto the small stage where the band had been playing. Diana moved to join him, triumph written across her face. "Where's Adam?" I whispered again, more urgently. "Ladies and gentlemen," James began, his voice tight, "I'm afraid I have a rather serious announcement to make regarding some recent discoveries about patent infringement within our company." My heart stopped. This wasn't the plan. James was supposed to wait. Diana reached the stage, that damned folder open in her hands. "James, darling, perhaps I should—" "No," he cut in. "I think as CEO I should handle this." He turned to the crowd. "It seems someone has been stealing designs and claiming them as their own." I stepped forward, the evidence from my father burning in my purse. "Mr. Collins, Brielle," his voice was ice, "I'm sorry, but given the evidence presented this morning, I'm going to have to ask for your resignation." The room erupted in whispers. Diana's smile widened. "That evidence is fake," I said, my voice shaking. "I can prove—" "We have dated documentation," Diana interrupted smoothly. "Patents filed months before you joined the company." "Really, dear? Did you think you wouldn't get caught?" "Show them the real patents," I demanded, reaching for my purse. But when I opened it, the documents were gone. Emily's sharp intake of breath matched my own rising panic. "They were just here," she whispered. "I saw them an hour ago." Diana's laugh tinkled like breaking glass. "Looking for these?" She pulled another set of papers from her folder. "My father's evidence. Found them in your purse while you were helping in the kitchen. Really, trying to forge evidence to defend yourself. That's rather desperate, don't you think?" The room spun. Everything we'd planned, every piece of evidence we'd gathered, she'd somehow stayed one step ahead. "Where's Adam?" I asked again, my voice cracking. "Oh, he won't be joining us," Diana said. "He's quite upset about discovering his wife's deceptions. Isn't that right, James?" James nodded grimly. "He's the one who confirmed the original patent dates this morning." The betrayal hit like a physical blow. Adam had verified her lies, but he knew. "No," Emily started. "That's not—" "Emily, dear," Diana cut in, "the kitchen needs you. Unless you'd like to join Brielle in unemployment—" I watched Emily's face crumple as she backed away, leaving me alone in the center of the room. Evelyn had vanished. My father's evidence was in Diana's hands. And Adam— "Security will escort you out," James said, not meeting my eyes. "Your personal items will be sent to you." Diana stepped down from the stage, pausing as she passed me. "I warned you," she whispered. "You never had a chance." As security approached, I caught a glimpse of my reflection in the window. Alone, surrounded by hostile faces, everything I'd built crumbling around me. Diana hadn't just outmaneuvered me. She'd turned my own weapons against me, used my own husband to deliver the killing blow. The guard's hand touched my elbow. Through the crowd's murmurs, I heard Diana's voice one last time. "Don't worry, dear. I'm sure you can find work somewhere, though perhaps not in design, or restaurants, or really anywhere in the city." They led me out into the cold, and the door closed behind me with a final damning click. I made it 3 steps into the parking lot before Adam's voice cut through the December air. "Wait!" He sprinted toward me, clutching a laptop. Behind him, Emily and Evelyn emerged from a side door, followed by my father. "We don't have much time," Adam said, breathing hard. "Mum's lawyers are already drawing up cease and desist orders." "You verified her patents," I said, the betrayal still raw in my throat. "I verified them were fake." He opened the laptop. "Every document she submitted this morning has digital timestamps from last week. I just needed her to think she'd won so she'd present them publicly." Inside, we could hear Diana's voice rising above the murmurs, probably spinning more lies about my disgrace. But something else caught my attention, a red light blinking on Adam's laptop screen. "Is that—" "Live streaming to the boardroom," Emily said, grinning. "Every word she's saying right now is being recorded and transmitted to the company's senior partners." "But that's not all," my father added, pulling out his phone. "Remember those supplier cancellations she orchestrated against my restaurant? The payments all traced back to one of her private accounts." Evelyn stepped forward, her eyes gleaming. "Shall we go back inside? I believe I have something to say about those Paris designs she stole 35 years ago." The ballroom fell silent when we re-entered. Diana's triumph turned to confusion, then fear, as she saw us all together. "What is this?" she demanded. "The truth," Adam said, turning his laptop toward the crowd. The screen showed a split view, Diana's forged patents on one side, the digital timestamps proving their recent creation on the other. "Those are," Diana started. "Fake," James finished, his voice heavy with realization. "Just like the designs you claimed were yours in Paris." Diana's head snapped toward Evelyn. "You wouldn't dare." "I've dared worse, my dear." Evelyn's voice carried across the room. "Like keeping every letter from the real designer threatening legal action, the ones you thought I'd destroyed." Diana laughed, but it sounded hollow. "You have no proof of anything." "Actually," Emily stepped forward, holding up her phone. "We have your confession from the kitchen, about the turkey, the patents, everything. And thanks to company policy, the one you helped write, all kitchen recordings are admissible in legal proceedings." The room erupted in whispers. Board members pulled out phones, executives huddled in corners. Diana's carefully constructed world was unraveling thread by thread. "James," she pleaded, turning to her husband, "you can't believe—" "The supplier payments to sabotage Thompson's restaurant," he cut in. "Those came from our joint account. I checked this morning." Diana's face contorted. "Everything I did for this family. To protect us from people like her." She jabbed a finger at me. "She's changing everything, destroying everything we built." "No, Mother," Adam said quietly. "You did that yourself." Diana looked around wildly, seeing support crumble, allies turn away. But instead of backing down, something in her snapped. "You ungrateful little witch," she snarled, lunging for me. "I'll destroy you." My father stepped between us, his voice cutting like a chef's knife. "Like you tried to destroy my restaurant, my reputation, my daughter's career." Diana froze, realizing too late that her outburst was still being live-streamed to the boardroom. "Diana," James said, his voice heavy with finality, "I want you out of this house, tonight, and expect to hear from our lawyers in the morning." The security guards who'd escorted me out minutes earlier now moved toward Diana. But before they reached her, she straightened her spine, smoothed her dress, and managed one last venomous smile. "Congratulations, Brielle. You've won this round. But remember, you had to become exactly like me to do it." As they led her away, her words hung in the air like smoke. I felt Adam's hand find mine, squeezing gently. Around us, the family began to gather, not in judgment now, but in support. But Diana's parting shot had found its mark. In destroying her, had I become her? The victory felt hollow, tainted by the truth in her final accusation. The game was over. But the cost of winning remained to be seen. The kitchen smelled of roasting turkey and fresh herbs. I adjusted the oven temperature, checking the bird's color through the glass. Golden brown, perfectly done. Just like Thanksgiving, except this time, no one would throw it away. "Need help?" Emily asked from the doorway. "Almost finished." I pulled out my phone, took a photo of the turkey. Old habits die hard. The Collins family waited in the dining room. James, Evelyn, Adam, even my father. Our first family dinner since Diana's departure. The divorce papers had been signed yesterday. The board approved your redesigned proposal, Emily said, setting plates on the counter. Uncle James wants to start implementation next month. I nodded, but my eyes drifted to the envelope sitting unopened on the kitchen island. Diana's handwriting, her final words before leaving the city. I'd found it in our mailbox this morning. You don't have to read it, Adam said, appearing behind Emily. He'd been watching me eye that envelope all day. I know. But I picked it up anyway, broke the seal. Inside was a single photograph. Diana in Paris 35 years ago, standing beside a design board. Her smile was different then, genuine, full of hope. On the back, she'd written, "We're more alike than you think. That's what terrifies me." "Brie?" Adam touched my shoulder. "The turkey's ready." I slipped the photo back into the envelope, tucked it into my recipe box beside my mother's old cards. Some things you keep, not because they're pleasant, but because they remind you of who you don't want to become. The turkey came out perfectly. I carved it at the table while James discussed the company's future, while Emily detailed her plans for the restaurant division, while Evelyn shared stories of family dinners past. My father watched me with quiet pride, and Adam's hand found mine under the table. But between the laughter and plans and healing, Diana's words echoed. We're more alike than you think. Maybe she was right. Maybe we shared the same drive, the same determination, the same capacity for calculated revenge. But there was one crucial difference. I had a choice. Every day I could choose between protecting what I loved and destroying what I feared. A toast, James raised his glass. To family. To truth, Evelyn added. To fresh starts, Emily chimed in. I looked at Adam, saw in his eyes the same question that had haunted me since that night. Had justice been worth the cost? To choices, I said finally, raising my glass, and to the people who help us make the right ones. The crystal clinked, the conversation flowed, and slowly, the weight of the past months began to lift. Diana was gone, but she'd left behind more than just wreckage. She'd left a warning, a mirror, a chance to choose a different path. Later, as I packed leftovers for everyone to take home, a new tradition perhaps, I found myself humming my father's old kitchen song, the one he'd sung during hard times at the restaurant, about how the finest meals come from the hottest fires. You know, Adam said, wrapping his arms around my waist, most people would have broken under what she did to you. Maybe, I leaned back against him, or maybe we just need to remember that revenge isn't the only way to protect what matters. Through the kitchen window, I could see my father helping Emily load containers into her car, James and Evelyn walking arm in arm toward their driver. Family, messy, complicated, worth fighting for, but not worth destroying yourself over. I closed the recipe box, Diana's photo safely buried beneath years of family history and love expressed through food. Some recipes you follow exactly, others you adapt, and some you leave behind entirely. The choice, I realized, had always been mine to make. Come on, I told Adam, handing him the last container of leftovers. Let's go home. I'm thinking of trying a new recipe tomorrow. He smiled, understanding what I meant. Sometimes the best revenge isn't revenge at all. It's living well, loving deeply, and leaving the bitterness behind. Even if some small part of you never forgets how to make it.
I stare at the velvet box in Connor's outstretched hand, my champagne glass frozen halfway to my lips. The crystal chandelier above us throws fractured light across his perfectly practiced smile. And I can't shake the feeling that this moment, this proposal, is just another transaction being closed. My name is Arya, and I should be crying tears of joy right now. Instead, I'm counting the seconds of silence that have stretched between us while both our families lean forward in their seats, waiting for the fairy tale ending they've scripted. Darling? Connor's voice carries that slight edge I've grown to recognize. The one that says I'm not performing my role correctly. You're keeping everyone in suspense. Mother clasps her hands together, her diamond bracelet catching the light. Oh, sweetheart, isn't this just perfect? Perfect. Like the merger documents I spotted on Father's desk last week. Perfect like the way Connor's mother, Sophie, has been dropping hints about grandchildren and family legacies over every lunch we've shared this month. The word catches in my throat as Connor's fingers tighten almost imperceptibly around the box. His eyes aren't warm anymore, they're calculating, measuring my response against some invisible benchmark. Connor, I force a smile, buying time. This is so unexpected. James Mitchell, Connor's father, chuckles from his seat. Nonsense. You two have been headed this way since prep school. It's about time my boy made an honest woman of you. The ring gleams, 3 carats at least, knowing Connor's taste for excess. It's exactly what I would have wanted 5 years ago, when I still believed in the fairy tale of us. Before I started noticing the late-night calls he steps out to take, the lingering scent of unfamiliar perfume. The way his smile never quite reaches his eyes anymore. Say yes, Arya, my father's voice carries that same tone he uses in board meetings. Don't keep the poor man waiting. I look at Connor again, really look at him. His perfectly tailored suit, his manicured nails, the slight impatience twitching at the corner of his mouth. This isn't love, it's a hostile takeover dressed up in romance. Yes, I hear myself say, and the room erupts in applause. Connor slides the ring onto my finger with surgical precision. Then kisses me for exactly 3 seconds, long enough for Sophie to snap a photo with her phone. To the happy couple. Mother raises her glass, and everyone follows suit. I'm still holding my champagne, untouched, watching the bubbles rise and die. Connor's hand finds the small of my back, possessive. I knew you'd make the right choice, he whispers, and something in his tone makes my skin crawl. This isn't a proposal, it's a warning. Later, after the congratulations and the toasts, after both families have finally left us alone in the restaurant's private dining room, Connor checks his phone. His face illuminates with genuine warmth for the first time all evening, the kind of smile I haven't seen directed at me in months. Business? I ask, though I already know it isn't. Always working, darling. He stands, straightening his jacket. I have to take this. Wedding plans tomorrow? I nod, watching him stride away, already speaking softly into his phone. The ring feels heavy on my finger, like a shackle rather than a promise. I take another sip of champagne, letting the bitter taste linger on my tongue. This isn't the end of our story, it's the beginning of his downfall. He just doesn't know it yet. 3 days after the proposal, I sit in Mother's sunroom, surrounded by wedding magazines and her endless chatter about color schemes. The diamond on my finger catches the morning light, throwing accusatory sparkles across the walls. The Mitchells suggested the Grand Plaza for the reception, Mother says, marking another page with a sticky note. Sophie knows the owner personally. Wouldn't that be lovely? I trace the rim of my teacup. Lovely. Just like the merger papers Father's been reviewing. Mother's hands still over the magazine. Arya, dear, business arrangements have always been part of society marriages. Your father and I had a love match. Don't pretend otherwise. The words come out sharper than intended. She sighs, setting down her pen. Connor adores you. He's been part of our lives since you were children. Why are you suddenly so? My phone buzzes. A text from Mike, coffee? Important. I have to go, I stand, gathering my bag. Meeting a client. Mother's disappointment follows me to the door. We haven't finished discussing the venue options. And Connor's mother wanted to review the guest list. Later. I'm already halfway out, the suffocating weight of expectations lifting with each step. 20 minutes later, I slide into a booth across from Mike at our old law school hangout. His usual easy smile is replaced by something grimmer. "You look like hell," he says, pushing a coffee toward me. "Thanks. You're not exactly runway material yourself." But I'm grateful for his directness, for the absence of wedding talk and false congratulations. He slides an envelope across the table. "You asked me to keep an eye on things. Well, I found something." Inside are photos: Connor entering a high-rise apartment building, Connor at a restaurant, Connor with his hand on the small of a woman's back. The woman's face isn't clear, but her body language speaks volumes. "Julia Parker," Mike says quietly. "Junior partner at Richardson and Gray. They've been meeting 3 times a week for the past month." The coffee turns bitter in my mouth. Business meetings? Unless business meetings typically end at midnight in private residences. He pauses, watching me carefully. "There's more. The merger your father's working on? Julia's firm is handling the legal side." Everything clicks into place: the rushed proposal, Connor's sudden interest in my father's business dealings, the late-night phone calls. "He's using me," I say, and hearing it aloud makes it real. The marriage, the merger, everything, it's all connected. Mike reaches across the table, but I pull back. "What are you going to do?" Before I can answer, the cafe door chimes. Connor walks in with his mother, Sophie. I slide the photos under my napkin, forcing a smile as they approach. "Darling." Connor's surprise sounds rehearsed. What a coincidence. Mother and I were just discussing wedding details. Sophie's eyes fix on Mike, her smile tightening. "And who might this be?" "Mike Johnson," he stands, offering his hand. "Old friend from law school." "How nice," Sophie says, not taking his hand. "Arya, dear, we were just heading to look at venues. Why don't you join us?" Connor's hand finds my shoulder, squeezing slightly. "Yes, darling. Much better use of your time then. Catching up." I meet Mike's eyes briefly. He nods almost imperceptibly. "Of course," I stand, gathering my things. "Mike was just leaving anyway." "I'll call you about that case," Mike says meaningfully. As we leave, Connor's arm slides around my waist, possessive. "I'd prefer if you didn't meet male friends alone," he murmurs. "It doesn't look appropriate now that we're engaged." I lean into him, playing my part. "Of course, darling. Whatever you think is best." But over his shoulder, I watch Mike pocket the envelope of photos, and I feel something shift inside me. The game Connor's playing has rules he doesn't know about yet. And I'm done being just another piece on his board. Sophie chatters about flower arrangements as we walk to her car, but all I can think about is Julia Parker. And how many other secrets are waiting to be uncovered. The Mitchell family estate looms before me, all Georgian columns and manicured hedges. I'm here for another wedding planning session, but my real purpose weighs heavy in my jacket pocket, a small recording device Mike gave me yesterday. Sophie's voice drifts from Connor's father's study as I approach. I pause outside the door, my hand hovering over the handle. "The merger paperwork needs to be finalized before the wedding," James Mitchell says. "Richard Bennett won't suspect anything if it comes through the usual channels." "Julia's handling everything," Connor replies. "Once the marriage is official, the transfer of assets will be seamless. Arya won't know what hit her until it's too late." My fingers curl around the recording device. Even expecting betrayal, hearing it laid bare makes my stomach turn. "And you're sure she suspects nothing?" Sophie asks. Connor's laugh cuts through me like glass. "Please. She's so desperate to believe in our childhood romance, she'd swallow any lie I feed her. Besides, Julia's much better at handling the legal side of things. More cooperative." "Speaking of Julia," James says, "be more discreet. The girl from your mother's charity board mentioned seeing you together at LeBlanc." "I'll handle it," Connor says dismissively. Arya's too invested now to back out. The wedding announcement's already in the society pages. I step back, my heel catching on the carpet. The floor creaks. Did you hear something? Sophie asks. I'm already moving, slipping into the nearby powder room as footsteps approach. The door closes behind me just as someone passes by. My phone buzzes, a text from Mike. Got the financial records you asked for. It's worse than we thought. The bathroom door opens suddenly. Julia Parker stands there, perfect in her tailored suit, red lipstick immaculate. We stare at each other for a long moment. Well, she says, closing the door behind her. This is awkward. I straighten my spine. Not as awkward as sleeping with my fiancé. She laughs, checking her reflection in the mirror. Oh honey, it's not personal. It's business. Connor needed someone who understands the bigger picture. The hostile takeover of my family's company? Smart girl. She reapplies her lipstick. But not smart enough to see it coming, were you? Too busy planning your fairy tale wedding. Does it make you feel powerful? I ask. Being the other woman? Her smile falters slightly. Other woman? Please. I'm the only woman. You're just the signature he needs on the merger documents. She moves closer, her perfume cloying. Here's some free advice, take the settlement they'll offer after the divorce. Fight it, and you'll lose everything. The recording device feels heavy in my pocket. Thanks for the tip. She reaches for the door, then pauses. You know what's funny? Connor said you were too naive to play in the big leagues. Guess he was right. After she leaves, I wait 30 seconds before following. Connor's voice stops me in the hallway. Darling, there you are. He kisses my cheek, and I force myself not to flinch. Mother's been looking for you. Something about table arrangements. I just ran into Julia Parker, I say, watching his face. Interesting woman. His expression doesn't change, but his hand tightens on my arm. One of our legal consultants. Brilliant mind. Among other assets, I'm sure. His smile turns cold. Careful, darling. Jealousy doesn't suit you. No? I step closer, lowering my voice. What would suit me better? Blind obedience? Silent compliance? We'll discuss this later, he says through clenched teeth. Mother's waiting. I pull away. Of course. Wouldn't want to keep anyone waiting. As I walk toward the dining room where Sophie waits with her wedding binders and social expectations, I touch the recording device in my pocket. Connor thinks he's orchestrating a perfect plan, but he's forgotten something crucial. In chess, the queen is the most powerful piece on the board. And I'm done being his pawn. Mike's apartment is a mess of papers and surveillance photos spread across his coffee table. I pick up a document, my father's signature stark against the white paper. They've already started transferring assets, Mike says, handing me a coffee. The merger's just a smokescreen. Once you're married, Connor's firm gains controlling interest in your family's company. I set down the transfer documents. And Julia? She's been Connor's inside counsel for months. Every contract, every deal, she's buried the real terms in legal jargon your father's lawyers wouldn't catch without a forensic audit. A photo catches my eye, Connor and Julia leaving her apartment building at dawn. When was this? Yesterday morning. Right before your engagement brunch. The coffee burns my throat. I'd sat next to him for 2 hours, playing the blushing bride while he'd probably still smelled of her perfume. My phone buzzes, Connor. I silence it. There's more, Mike hesitates. Your mother's trust fund? The one your grandmother left her? They found a way to access that too. The room tilts slightly. That's impossible. Those accounts are protected. Not if the trustee signs them over. And guess who's about to become part of the family? A knock at the door makes us both freeze. Mike moves to answer it, but I grab his arm. Through the peephole, I see Sophie Mitchell's perfectly coiffed hair. How did she? Fire escape, Mike whispers, already gathering the documents. Now. I'm halfway out the window when Sophie's voice carries through the door. Michael? I know Arya's in there. We need to talk. Mike looks at me. I shake my head. Just a moment, he calls out, buying time as I climb down the metal stairs. I'm almost to the ground when I hear Sophie's voice above me. Really, Arya? How undignified. She's leaning out Mike's window, looking more amused than angry. We can do this the easy way or the hard way. Your choice. Like you gave Connor a choice? The words escape before I can stop them. Her smile falters. Come back up. There are things you need to understand. I understand plenty. Do you? She leans further out. Did you know your father's company is already failing? That this merger is the only thing keeping your family from bankruptcy? I stop climbing. That's right, she continues. Connor's not the villain you think he is. He's saving your family's legacy. The only question is whether you'll help us do it cleanly, or make things messy. By marrying him while he sleeps with Julia? Marriage is business, dear. Love is a luxury we can't always afford. She straightens her jacket. Come up, and I'll show you the real numbers. Then you can decide if your pride is worth your family's ruin. I look down at the alley below, then up at Sophie's calculating smile. Either way, I'm trapped. Fine, I say, climbing back up. Show me. In Mike's apartment, Sophie pulls out a tablet, displaying spreadsheets that make my stomach sink. Red numbers. Massive debt. My father's signature on desperate loans. Your father doesn't know we know, Sophie says softly. We could destroy him. Or save him. Your choice. Mike stands in the corner, his face grim. We both know what this means. The evidence we've gathered against Connor is now a double-edged sword. You have until tomorrow to decide, Sophie stands, smoothing her skirt. Choose wisely. After she leaves, Mike touches my shoulder. Arya. I shrug him off. Get me everything you can on Julia Parker. If I'm going down, I'm taking them all with me. This isn't just about revenge anymore, he warns. No, I look at the financial records, at the photos of Connor and Julia, at the ruins of my family's legacy. Now it's about survival. The engagement ring catches the light as I clench my fist. I've never felt more trapped, or more determined to fight my way out. The engagement party glitters around me like broken glass. I watch Connor work the room, his hand possessively at Julia's waist as he introduces her to various business associates. The perfect picture of professional courtesy, except for how his fingers curl into the fabric of her dress when he thinks no one's looking. Another champagne, Miss Bennett? A waiter appears at my elbow. Water, I say, trading my untouched glass. With lime. Father approaches, his bow tie slightly askew. Princess, you should be mingling. The Hendersons are asking about you. In a moment. I touch his arm. Dad, about the merger. Wonderful news, isn't it? His eyes are bright, unfocused. Connor's restructuring proposal will save everything. Should have done this years ago. My chest tightens. Did you read the full contract? Sophie's had her people review everything. Top-notch legal team. He pats my hand. Don't worry your pretty head about business matters. That's what having a strong son-in-law is for. Across the room, Connor catches my eye and raises his glass. I mirror the gesture, bile rising in my throat. Mike's text buzzes in my clutch, documents ready. Say the word. I type back, not yet. Need one more piece. Julia breaks away from Connor's group, heading toward the powder room. I count to 30, then follow. She's touching up her lipstick when I enter. Enjoying the party? Almost as much as you're enjoying my fiancé. I lock the door behind me. Her hand stills. Careful, Arya. You're playing with fire. No, I pull out my phone, showing her the photos Mike took. I'm playing with gasoline. And I have matches. She studies the images, her composure cracking slightly. What do you want? The truth. About the merger, about Connor's plans after the wedding, about how your father's company is hemorrhaging money. She turns to face me fully. Or about how Connor plans to strip it for parts once he has control. The words hit like physical blows, but I keep my voice steady. And your role? I get partner at Mitchell & Sons, plus a percentage of the liquidation. Her smile turns sharp. Connor gets everything else. Including your mother's trust fund. You really think I'll let that happen? You really think you can stop it? She steps closer. Face it, Arya. You lost this game before you knew you were playing. The contracts are signed. The transfers are in motion. In 3 weeks, you'll be Mrs. Connor Mitchell, and everything your family built will belong to us. My hand shakes as I reach into my purse. Thank you, Julia. For what? I hold up the recording device. Her face drains of color. For confessing. I unlock the door. Oh, and Julia? Red isn't your color. I'm halfway across the ballroom when Connor intercepts me. Dance with me, darling. People are watching. His hands settle on my waist as we move to the music. I can smell Julia's perfume on his collar. Mother told me about your little investigation, he murmurs. Very resourceful. But ultimately pointless. Like our engagement? His fingers dig into my hip. Don't be dramatic. This is business. No, I say softly. This is war. He spins me under the chandelier light. A war you can't win. Your father's signature is on every document. The merger goes through with or without the wedding. But with it? His smile turns cruel. At least your family keeps their dignity. Their social standing. Their illusions. The music swells. Around us, couples dance, glasses clink, cameras flash, capturing the perfect society engagement party. You have until tomorrow to destroy whatever evidence you think you have, Connor says. After that, things get unpleasant. I meet his eyes. They already are. Breaking away, I head for the exit, typing rapidly on my phone, Mike, release everything. All of it. Now. Behind me, Connor's phone chimes. Then Julia's. Then a cascade of notifications across the ballroom as emails land in dozens of inboxes. Sometimes the only way to win is to burn everything to the ground. Chaos erupts in the ballroom as phones light up with notifications. I stand in the center of the storm, watching my carefully orchestrated revenge unfold. Photos of Connor and Julia. Financial documents. Recorded conversations. All of it flooding every inbox in the room. Connor reaches me first, his fingers digging into my arm. What have you done? Exactly what you taught me, I say. Business is business. Sophie's scream cuts through the murmuring crowd. She's staring at her tablet, face ashen. James. The shares, they're dropping. Father pushes through the crowd, his phone in his trembling hand. Arya, tell me you didn't. I had to. My voice cracks. They were going to destroy everything. We were saving it. Connor's mask finally slips, revealing the rage beneath. Your father's company was dead anyway. We could have salvaged something. Julia appears at his side, her composure shattered. The SEC is already responding to the emails. They're launching an investigation. The room spins as reality crashes in. I've blown up everything, not just Connor's plans, but my family's legacy, our reputation, everything we've built. Princess, Father's voice is barely a whisper. Those contracts you exposed. They have my signature. The SEC will. Arrest you, James Mitchell finishes, his face hard. Unless. Unless what? I demand. Unless we contain this. Connor's calm returns, more terrifying than his anger. Deny everything. Claim the documents are forged. Your father keeps his freedom, our companies survive, and the wedding proceeds as planned. You can't be serious. Dead serious. He steps closer, voice low. You wanted to play hardball? Fine. But remember, you're not the only one who can destroy lives. Mother appears, tears streaming down her face. Richard, they're saying terrible things. That you knew about the fraud, that you... It's a mistake, father says quickly. Just a mistake. Right, princess? All eyes turn to me. The weight of generations of legacy, of my father's freedom, of my mother's happiness, it all hangs on my next words. Mike pushes through the crowd. Arya, don't. Shut up, Connor snaps. This is family business. Family? I laugh, the sound brittle. Is that what we're calling this? Sophie takes my hand, her grip like steel. Think carefully, dear. Some bells can't be unrung. I look around the room, at the shocked faces of guests, at Julia's calculating stare, at my father's pleading eyes. The truth would destroy them all. But the lie... Ladies and gentlemen, Connor addresses the crowd, his charm back in place. There seems to have been a misunderstanding. A disgruntled former employee. Stop. My voice cuts through his smooth lies. He turns, warning in his eyes. Darling. I pull off the engagement ring and let it fall. The tiny clink as it hits the floor echoes in the sudden silence. No more lies. Arya, father steps forward. Please. I'm sorry, Dad. But I can't. Connor's hand clamps over my mouth from behind. I think my fiancé has had too much champagne. If you'll excuse us. I bite down hard. He curses, releasing me. The documents are real, I say to the stunned crowd. Every signature, every deal, every betrayal. And I can prove it. James Mitchell's voice cuts like ice. Then you'll destroy your father along with everyone else. Maybe. I meet Connor's eyes. But at least it will be the truth. The next moments blur, security appearing, phones flashing, mother crying. Through it all, I stand still, watching the carefully constructed world of privilege and lies crumble around us. Mike touches my shoulder. Come on. We need to go. As he leads me out, I hear Connor's voice one last time. You've just committed suicide, social, financial, and familial. I hope it was worth it. I don't look back. Sometimes the only way to fix a broken system is to break it completely. But standing in the cool night air, watching police cars arrive with their flashing lights, I wonder if the price of truth is higher than anyone can afford to pay. 3 days after the engagement party, I sit across from Connor in his father's study. Outside, rain lashes against century-old windows while reporters camp at the gates. Hungry for more details about the scandal rocking both our families. Quite a performance, Connor says, swirling whiskey in his crystal glass. But ultimately pointless. I slide a folder across his father's mahogany desk. Not quite. He doesn't open it. More evidence? The SEC already has everything. Not everything. I tap the folder. Open it. Inside are documents I'd held back, emails between Connor and Julia dating back years, planning not just my family's downfall, but his own father's eventual ouster. His fingers tighten on the glass. Where did you get these? Julia's not as loyal as you think. I lean forward. Especially when she discovered your plans to blame her for everything. The study door opens. James Mitchell enters, followed by Julia. Connor's face drains of color. Father. Shut up. James's voice is lethal. Miss Parker has been quite informative. Julia won't meet Connor's eyes. I'm sorry, Connor. But I'm not going down for this. You think betraying me saves you? Connor stands, mask finally cracking. You're nothing without me. Any of you. No, son. James moves behind his desk, Connor's desk, until now. You're nothing without us. And now you have nothing. Connor laughs, ugly and raw. You can't cut me out. I built this empire while you played golf and attended charity galas. Built it? I stand. Or stole it? Tell him, Julia. She steps forward, shoulders straight. The Morrison deal, the offshore accounts, the fake subsidiaries, it wasn't just the Bennett merger. Connor's been siphoning money for years. James slumps slightly, looking suddenly old. My own son. Your disappointment of a son, right? Connor hurls his glass against the wall. Never good enough, never measuring up. Well, I measured up. I beat you at your own game. The game's over, I say quietly. The FBI is outside. His head snaps toward the window. Red and blue lights reflect off the rain-streaked glass. You wouldn't, he whispers. Your father has already made a deal. Full cooperation in exchange for immunity. I move closer. Did you really think I'd destroy my family to destroy you? Understanding dawns in his eyes. The engagement party, the public exposure, was a distraction. While everyone focused on the scandal, the FBI was following the real money trail. Julia opens the study door. 2 FBI agents enter. This is what real power looks like, Connor, I say as they approach. Not manipulation. Not fear. Truth. He lunges suddenly, not at the agents but at me. His fingers close around my throat. Then he's on the ground, James Mitchell standing over him, fist raised. That's enough. As the agents cuff him, Connor looks up at me. I loved you once. Did you know that? No, I touch my throat. You loved what I represented. There's a difference. Connor Mitchell, the agent recites his rights as they lead him away. Julia follows with another agent, head high, ready to make her own deal. James pours 2 drinks, hands me one. You've destroyed my son. He destroyed himself. I just showed everyone who he really was. And who are you, Arya Bennett? I look at my reflection in the whiskey, remembering the naive girl who once dreamed of a fairy tale ending with Connor Mitchell. Someone who chose truth over power. I set down the untouched drink. Goodbye, Mr. Mitchell. Outside, the rain has stopped. Reporters surge forward as Connor is led to a waiting car. Camera flashes turn the night into day. Mike waits by my car. You okay? I watch Connor's vehicle disappear into the night. Ask me tomorrow. Was it worth it? I think of my father's face when I showed him the FBI's deal, of my mother's tears of relief. Of the weight lifting from my shoulders as truth finally won out over lies. Yes, I say. But not for the reasons I thought. Sometimes revenge isn't about destroying your enemies. Sometimes it's about saving yourself. The letter arrives on crisp Mitchell and Sons stationery, delivered to my office by James Mitchell's personal courier. Inside, Connor's familiar handwriting fills a single page. I wonder if you knew, even then, that we were both playing the same game. You learned from the best, after all. Remember when we were children, and I taught you chess? The queen protects the king, I said. But you always preferred to sacrifice your king to win the game. You didn't just beat me, Arya. You became me. I set the letter down as father enters my office, looking older but somehow lighter since the trial ended. The board approved the restructuring, he says, settling into the chair across from me. James Mitchell stepping down. They want fresh blood at the helm. And you? Retirement suits me. He studies my face. They want you, you know. Both companies. A merger of sorts, but not the kind Connor planned. I touch the letter. I'm not interested in running either empire. No? He smiles slightly. Then why did you fight so hard to save them? Because they needed saving. Not owning. Mike appears in the doorway, case files under his arm. Sorry to interrupt, but the Richardson and Gray partners are here. They're ready to discuss the merger terms. Father stands. I'll leave you to it. Dad? I catch his arm. I'm sorry I couldn't tell you about the FBI deal sooner. You protected the family your way. He touches my cheek. Just like your mother would have. After he leaves, Mike drops the files on my desk. Julia's testimony went well. Connor's looking at 15 years minimum. And Sophie? Left the country last night. Apparently, Switzerland is lovely this time of year. I pick up Connor's letter again. He thinks I became him. Did you? No. I feed the letter through the shredder. I became myself. The intercom buzzes. Miss Bennett? The partners are waiting. Ready? Mike asks. I gather the files. Almost. In my desk drawer, the engagement ring sits in its velvet box, my last piece of evidence, my last link to Connor. I consider it for a moment, then leave it there. Some things are better left buried. The conference room fills with lawyers and executives, all watching me expectantly. These are the same people who once dismissed me as Connor's ornamental fiancé. Now they lean forward, eager to hear my terms. Before we begin, I say, let's be clear. This isn't a merger, hostile or otherwise. This is a partnership. Equal terms, equal responsibility, equal consequences. Murmurs of agreement ripple through the room. Through the glass walls, I see Father watching proudly. Beyond him, Mother arranges flowers in the reception area, rebuilding our world in her own quiet way. The documents are standard, I continue, but my mind drifts to Connor, sitting in his cell, probably still plotting, still scheming. Still believing that power means control. He never understood that real power isn't about what you can take. It's about what you choose to give up. Miss Bennett? One of the partners prompts. Shall we proceed? I look around the table, at Mike's encouraging nod, at the future stretching out before me, unmarked by revenge or regret. Yes, I say. Let's begin. Later, standing at my office window, I watch the city lights flicker on. My phone buzzes with a text from an unknown number, you won. But at what cost? I don't need to ask who it's from. Connor always did need the last word. I type back a single line, the price of truth is worth paying. Then I block the number, slip my phone into my bag, and head for the door. Outside, Mike waits with takeout and case files, not a fairy tale ending, but a real one. Sometimes the happiest endings aren't about winning or losing. They're about choosing your own path, even when that path leads somewhere unexpected. I close my office door, leaving Connor's ghost behind. Tomorrow is another day, and this time, I'll face it on my own terms.